We're back. Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. We are finally getting to the end of the budget meetings. Budget season is almost over. Now we get to have a little bit more fun. And now, because they're no longer like 2 or 3 hour meetings, more they're like, well, this one's 2 hours, but it's also talking about other stuff. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with this one, I think, because I think just so fed up with these assholes. You're gonna understand why here in a second. But let's just get to it. We got Josh Bain with that sweet, sweet fit. I kind of wish I could pull off suspenders. Maybe I could. I've never tried, but he's got that whole like Gordon Gecko. Am I saying that right? Like Wolf of Wall Street look, looking pretty good. And we see Fiona McCormick with the sunglasses on the head as usual. That slob.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee of the City County Council. So introductions on our first roll. Councilor Hart.
Great
Thank you,
hair.
Mr. Chairman. Michael Paul Hart, District 20.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Josh Bain, District 21.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Lene, District 22.
Now our second roll, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Carlos
Doctor of Ministry. Never forget.
Perkins, District 6.
He's not going to help you if you're having a heart attack or some kind of medical condition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brianne Delaney, District 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jessica McCormick, District 16.
Oh,
West
wow.
Side.
She actually learned to take the sunglasses off.
Councilor Carlino.
Good evening, Chairman Robinson and attendees. Krista Carlino, Vice Chairwoman of this committee. I serve District 11 on the far west side.
What the fuck was that about?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
I totally had a brain fart. A typical blondie brain
Councilor Leroy
fart.
Robinson, serving District 1, Chair of the committee. We do have one proposal this evening, an appointment, and then the budget hearing, view and analysis. Up first, proposal 299, 2024 appoints Lindsay Stawick to the Domestic Violence Fatality Review Team. Come forward, please. Welcome.
Hi.
This is the first time you've been appointed to this review team, and we do have your resume in front of us. Everyone should have a hard copy of that. Just share with us briefly why you'd like to serve on this board.
I'm a registered nurse now, but I've been in the domestic violence field for over 12 years as a social worker.
Man,
I've worked for
look at the
a
eyes.
local nonprofit working in domestic violence prevention. I've also been personally affected. Most recently, Ashley Nolan, who was murdered by her husband. And I know that this appointment focuses on systems change, and I just want to make it better for those that follow.
Thank you, and we appreciate you willing to volunteer to help us and sharing your experience with us.
Yeah.
Comments or questions on proposal 299? Anyone in the audience care to speak to this proposal? Seeing none, the chair entertain a motion. Motion been probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the full council. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And up next is the budget hearing, review and analysis. Anyone want to come forward from OFM to speak to this portion of the budget? As the controller comes in.
Brian Maurer in the house, in the hizzle.
Yeah, we're on the review analysis part, so you want to kind of speak to where we are and any changes or adjustments to the budget?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry I'm late. I was detained in another meeting with the Corporation Council. So just in terms of where the budget stands right now, is that what you're asking,
Yes.
sir? Okay. So we think things are moving along well. There have been discussions of an amendment, but that was not successful. I'm not aware of any others. So we are proceeding through review and analysis, and of course are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Controller. Any comments or questions for the Controller on this portion of the budget before we go to the tax levies? Leader Maury.
Check. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for my lateness coming in here. I had a question about with budget for IMPD.
Yes.
I had heard on a newscast that there was federal dollars being spent for recruitment and retention for officers. Did the city apply for any of that? Because I heard, I think it was Fort Wayne got like 1.2 million added to their budget just for that through federal grants. Did we apply for those?
I don't know the answer to that question as I stand here right now. I do know that question was asked of me by someone earlier today, that some of those DOJ grant awards have been made, and the question is, did the city receive any? Did the city even apply? And I got that question as recently as 2:30 this afternoon, and I don't know the answer, but I will find out and I will tell you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Comments or questions for the Controller? Councilor Arnay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Controller, it sounded like you noted that there had been some discussions about potentially amending the budget, and that those had been ruled out. Just in a general sense, what were the conversations that caused a second look, and what were the reasons generally that it was decided to move forward as the budget was submitted to us back in August?
Oh, I'm sorry, I must have misspoken. I was referring to the Bain amendment that went through committee and didn't pass through committee and then came to the council and didn't pass through the council on Monday. That's the only one I'm aware of.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a question and a comment.
Oh boy, I can't wait.
Question: when during the IMPD budget hearing, there was a request for the amount of monies that were spent on settlement agreement for 2024, and I was to receive that, and I still have not received that yet. And so I wanted some further information about how much money has been spent this year for 2024 for settlement in IMPD.
Okay, I wasn't prepared for that question. Was that something you and I discussed, or was it with a member of the department?
That was when the department was presented.
Oh, okay. I wasn't prepared to answer that question. Something runs in my mind that there may have been a payment on settlement in 2024. Let me, if you will, let me follow up with you.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, my general statement is for my colleagues on the council. Retaining our responsibility as a fiscal agent body. The budget, as we've been going through the budget process, I've been working with the administration in both what they have shared with us as priority, but also what we believe are the priorities of the council. I am struck by the lack of push from my colleagues in terms of the administration, what was presented to us, and further, how does those things connect with some of our priorities that we have shared. And so I think it's appropriate when we had the IMPD hearing, I shared a concern around funding the IMPD on this ideal number and not on a realistic number. And we have not gotten any push or any information on that. And so I just want to make that general statement for my colleagues that as we are going through this process, we remain the fiscal agents, the fiscal body of this government, and it is our responsibility to push the administration on things that we believe that are priorities for us.
Just let's not forget that where he lives, his little pocket in the district has more crime in that area than the rest of the district that he lives in. And now he's bitching about the police. Like, motherfucker, why don't you take care of your own neighborhood first?
Mr. Chair, may I
Perkins is the typical dipshit liberal who thinks that getting rid of the police will solve everything. And you know what? I'm getting really close to saying, let's try that, because you're not going to like the result.
Thank you, sir. So that's something that we have spent a lot of time talking about recently, that we budget for 1,743 police officers, sworn officers, but we don't have that many officers. I think now we're in the 1,400s, somewhere in that range. And so the question becomes, well, then why don't we just budget for that realistic number and then use those, dollars that would pay for some 200-300 more officers somewhere else? But the reality of the matter is that we still spend those dollars within IMPD on overtime, because with the staffing as it stands right now, our overtime expenditures in IMPD are very, very high. Sort of a working number that we discuss within my team is $25 million a year. So although we are not actually paying 743 sworn officers, we are paying 1,500 and some officers with those dollars because of our overtime needs. So that's something I just want to acknowledge your point because it's a good one, but also
Motherfucker.
let you know that we are mindful of that and we are thinking about that. And that's something that also comes into play when we are, trying to negotiate our labor contract. So it's something very much top of mind for us, and I appreciate you drawing it to our attention.
Counselor? Follow-up?
Yes, I do, as a follow-up, this is not a follow-up question, but I do want to make a public statement.
Can't wait for you.
For all of us, as elected representative of the people, the Indianapolis.
Hey, look, he can't even freelance it. He has to read it from his phone, which is such a cuck move.
The City County Council plays a critical role in ensuring the financial well-being of the city. We are entrusted with the power to review, to modify, and approve the city's financial plan, to determine how resources are distributed among essential services, infrastructure, public safety, and community programs. This power comes with the obligation to operate with transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the best interests of the citizens of Indianapolis and Marion County. I encourage all of us that as we deliberate, we must always keep in mind the economic challenges facing our diverse communities. Our roles go beyond simply managing resources. We must be advocates for equity, ensuring that every dollar spent reflects the needs of all of our neighborhoods and prioritizes investment that improve quality of life for the most vulnerable of our city.
Basically what he's saying is, let's take tax dollars away from IMPD and put it into these corrupt neighborhood groups that really aren't going to do anything. They just want the money. What Carlos Perkins is saying, I want to be like Tiffany Henyard.
That's a statement that I want to make for our colleagues as we continue in this process and look forward to what will happen in our next full council meeting in October. Thank you.
No one gives a shit. You weren't even at the last council meeting, motherfucker. Why don't you show up to him first, and then you might have some something to say.
Questions for the controller? Thank you, Ms. Controller. Stay close, please. Councilors, we're going to move on to Proposal 261, 2024, approves the tax levy and rate for the Police Special Service District for 2025. Comments or questions on this proposal? Do we have anyone speaking to the tax levies for 261 and 262?
I saw that little socialist punk back
Councilors,
there.
any questions?
Oh, wow. Okay.
The chair will entertain a motion on 261. Motion been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Proposal 262, 2024 approves the tax levy and rate for the Fire Special Service District for 2025. Comments from councilors? Anyone in the audience care to speak to 262? Chair will entertain a motion. So moved. Motion been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, for the budget for 2025, proposal number 264, 2024, adopts the annual budget for the City of Indianapolis and Marion County for 2025, the public safety and criminal justice portion only. Comments, questions from councilors? Councilor Carlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to clarify, Proposal 264, maybe this is a question for our council, public safety criminal justice portion includes our OPHS funding, correct? For the Office of Public Health and Safety?
Correct.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Chair, that
You've been on the council for 4 years. How do you not already know that?
some of the programs that are continuing to be funded out of our operating budget were those programs that we were able to stand up in the face of the pandemic and utilize some of the federal funding from the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act. And I'm really humbled, excited, and truly in support of continuing those programs and continuing those funds being spent out of our county general budget. And I will be supportive of Proposal 264 this evening. Thank you.
Basically, we got all that ARPA dollar and the CARES dollars, the federal money, and he said, hey, let's put all this money into these garbage programs. And Carlino is saying, why don't we continue these programs? And the obvious answer is, Where do we find the money for it? Do you want to raise taxes? There's no accountability. There's no oversight. When you have so many government programs, so many government departments, it gets a little bit harder to have oversight if they're doing the job that they're supposed to be
Thank you,
doing.
Counselor. Comments or
But
questions?
Cardlino, McCormick, Delaney, definitely Perkins are a bunch of fucking morons, and they're just like, I don't have a problem spending everybody else's money.
On Proposal 264. Anyone in the audience, Mr. Clerk, do we have a list of those who want to speak this evening on the budget?
I'm
Mr.
sure
Stowers?
we do.
I'm going to read the first three names. When you hear your name, please come to the podium, state your name for the record, and then you have 2 minutes to speak to Proposal 264. Mr. Clerk.
Cecilia Gomez, Laney Silva, Nash Lininger.
Those three individuals want to come
I think it's
forward.
Neil.
The first one, and then you all others can just stand or sit behind them. One more time, Mr. Clerk.
Yeah, Cecilia Gomez, Laney Silva,
I think it's Lana.
Nash Lininger.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is on the public safety portion of the budget, correct?
Right, I'm for 314 as well. I noted that up.
Well, 314 is not up yet. It'll be up next.
My name's Cecilia Gomez.
Do you want to speak to the budget?
No, thank you.
Okay. No, 314 will be next. You can speak then.
Oh my
Second
God.
name.
This
We'll
is
call
what
you
we
back
have.
up.
This is, these people vote. Okay?
For the budget. I mean, for 314.
No, they're all for 314. Then.
Okay.
Not true. I'm for 264.
Did you?
Everybody's confused.
Oh, Lonnie Silver, yeah. Go.
Professor Lonnie Silva. You want to come forward, please? Speak to 264, the public safety portion of the budget.
Yes. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you for your time.
She is a professor for IU. I bet you can guess which side of the aisle that she's on.
If you don't mind, I'd like to read my comments into the record. I am going to try to keep these comments to 2 minutes. I'm sure that you will tell me when my time is up.
There is a buzzer.
By way of introduction, my name is Lonnie Silva. I'm here as a resident of Indianapolis, a public servant, an advocate for the reentering population, and a partner in Thomas Ridley's One Like Me, Hope Hustler project. It was a program that received $2.6 million in funding from the ARPA dollars. And I'm here to request reconsideration.
Hey, from the ARPA dollars. From the ARPA dollars.
Consideration of really two things. One is the 2025 budget and the determination by the Controller's Office to decline extension of the contract. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I don't know if you guys know what Hope Hustler does, but we actually help people get driver's license and expungements. And to date, we've served 2,946 people in 15 months. 1,000 people are now eligible to drive or valid, and hundreds of expungement petitions have been granted. And I welcome any of you to come to our event tomorrow if you'd like to see it in action and feel the magic.
Let me show you. I don't know if this is Hope Hustlers, but this was very similar to what they do for people who have lost their license. This is from the prosecutor's office. So this is Lakeisha Hardiman. I talked about this on my Twitter page a while back when this came out in June. That's just like the hardest thing. Your kids want to do something, but you know you ain't got your license. You got to either wait till somebody else is ready to do it, or it's just, I hate it. I want my license back real bad. If I can get my license, that'd be the best thing that could happen. I won't even ask for nothing else. And she is the one of hundreds of people that lost her license. And you might be thinking, this poor lady, how could you have taken her license away? Well, let's see. Back in 2020, what the hell is going on here? Okay, so there's something else going on here. It's not just this. My case must be updating or something. Yeah, there you go. Felony, carrying a handgun, has a prior felony conviction within the last 15 years. Operating a vehicle while intoxicated. Not good. Let's see. Class D felony, right here again. Possession of scheduled. Operating a vehicle while intoxicated, endangering a person. Driving while suspended, prior, 10 years. I just don't understand. Why, community? Why do these bad things keep happening to me? Whatever did I do to have my license taken away? Silva is going to be part of these group of people that are saying, yeah, I'm okay with having repeat offenders of DUIs back on the road and carrying a gun when you're not supposed to. Of course, they're just cute and sweet little people. You know, they never done anything bad.
Many organizations utilize this program. Indy Peace sends their fellows to us, as does Community Corrections and the United States Probation Department, which is federal probation. As you all know, reentry is a bipartisan effort, and we really unite the community and law enforcement. Chief Bailey is here tonight. He will tell you that he has attended our events, as well as Commander Riddle. We serve hotspot zones 226, 235, 218, 222, 208, 201, 202. We bring services to the neighborhoods. I'd like to quickly address the 4 reasons that the Controller's Office gave to decline the extension of the contract.
Oh, boy.
One was that Thomas Ridley's One Like Me, which is the organization that Hope Hustler falls under, is receiving Elevation 6 funding. And it was awarded Elevation 6 funding, but that funding is for a peer mentoring program, which pairs lived experienced people with other lived experienced people. And the Elevation Project has been funding this particular program, this specific program, for now its 3rd cycle. And so, as you know,
Just 2
standard
minutes.
practice for community-based organizations to have multiple programs that address the multifaceted needs of our population. Second, the Controller's
my
Office,
God.
the Prosecutor's Office has a similar program.
Yep.
It in fact doesn't.
Professor, we about 30 more seconds.
Oh, wow. That went by fast, didn't it?
How are you a professor and you don't know how fast 2 minutes is? Because you just to go on these spiels. Like, I've gone on public testimony before, and I made sure that I timed myself perfectly. Got to the point, know what I wanted to say, had the perfect speed for it. Fucking amateurs.
Yeah, it has a similar program. It does not. And Prosecutor Mears sent along an email to the Controller's Office explaining this. A third reason was DOJ funds. One Like Me receives JRA funding, but not for Hope Hustler. And finally, the Controller's Office said that we had already agreed not to spend some money, but our actual contract wasn't signed until June of 23. And we returned the money in good faith, thinking that that would fare positively on us. If we had known that the extension was possible, we could have definitely spent the $800,000 we gave back. So with that, I hope that you guys reconsider the budget and also the Controller's decision to decline the extension of the program.
Oh, this was the guy.
Anyone else, comments or questions on this portion of the budget on 264? Anyone want to come forward? Final comments, councilors? Sir, are you coming forward?
I think that's allowed.
State your name for the record, please.
My name is Alandis Briggs.
Thank you.
I'm part of this program, and I just want to say, like, this program really helps us. I've just did 7 years in the feds, and without them, I'd probably still be in here, or still be in there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been in plenty of programs, and not one program has given me a team that really wants me to succeed.
Wouldn't you want yourself to succeed?
You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people just say, well, we got your back, or whatever you need, we got you. But they don't. Like, when I couldn't pay rent and I was feeling like I was going back, man, this team helped me. You know what I'm saying? When I couldn't get something done, hospital bill, anything, this team helps me. Without that, you're going to have people, you know what I mean, going back to old habits. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Has to be a level of accountability instead of saying, I didn't have anybody to help me. Oh, you know what? I think I will commit more crime and then point the finger at somebody else for not helping them.
in order to help people like us, I mean, you need funding. You can't just do that on clear word. You know what I'm saying? You can't just say, well, I got your back, or I can make sure everything's okay, but how?
You just don't commit crime. It's literally just that simple.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't. Like, it's hard to do that just for words. You need something behind it. You got to give somebody something to fall back on. If you just fall and there's nothing to fall back on, you just gonna keep falling. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
This program is the best program I've ever seen in my life. I got a lot of people that's in this program, and everybody that I'm around is successful. And I know people that's been doing the worst, you know what I'm saying? Like, their past, we don't even have a past no more with this program. It's all
actually, you do.
We don't see no past no more. I don't be clarified by who I used to be back then. They see what I do right now. And I'm doing a lot right now to make sure I don't get in no trouble, no nothing. And it's because of them. Like, I got a team that helps. Without help, I know y'all know, everybody wasn't born in a rich family. Everybody wasn't blessed with a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Like, where I'm from, like, I ain't had no money.
Neither did I, motherfucker. But you know what? I knew what was good and what was bad.
So for somebody to just actually help me with a little bit of money, I can put some forth effort to make me want to fight for more. You know what I'm saying? And I done got way better. Do I need the money now? Probably not, but
this dipshit has a kid.
After me, Will. You know what I'm saying? And if you here to just help the people that needs the help, like, you know, the people that's been through the worst, and you take it away from them, old nature, you know what I'm saying? Old habits come back. And that's not what we want to be here for. We want to actually succeed and be better. That's about all I got to say, though.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Thanks for coming down. Appreciate you. Anyone else in the audience care to speak to this proposal for the budget 264? Welcome. Your name for the record, please.
I'm Erin Hall. I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Christian Legal Clinic. We're a partner of the Hope Hustle effort, and as you know, we've been doing expungements for a long time, starting here in the building, and this partnership has just been valuable in expanding our program. I think we did 3,100 expungements in 2023, a good number of those with the program, and so we certainly appreciate the partnership, and our capacity would be extremely diminished without this program. So we are here today.
Thank you. Thank you for your work in the community as well. Anyone else?
I'm sure there's plenty.
State your name for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. Shauna Majors, Councilman, Chairman, and Council. Good evening. I'm representing Brightwood Community Center this evening. We are a partner with the Hope Hustler and Thomas Ridley's One Like Me program. We work a lot in workforce development with people that need second chances, and this is one of our best partnerships that have helped our clients get their license back, expungements, other community members, and it has changed lives. Can't tell you how many people that have called back to me looking for Ms. Silva to thank her and her team for their work. And so I'm here to support that this continues, and that it is really important for us to look at this, and if we're all about reducing crime, this is one of those things that helps reduce crime. So I'm going to be short and sweet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your work as well. Sir, you want to state your name for the record, please?
How you doing? My name is Saran Poole, and I want to thank Professor Silva a lot. She really changed my life. I did 10 years in federal prison, never had a job, never had credit, never had nothing in my name. You know, she walked me through everything. I got my own crib, I work for the union, I got insurance, I got credit, I got everything from the help of her. I turned a lot of my friends on getting out of prison, and they succeeding too. So this program really helps a lot. I never put the trust in people to open up to her like I did, and she really changed my life, and I thank her for that.
Sir, thank you for your time. Thanks for coming down to speak. Sir, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Hampton.
So the lesson of the story is, folks, don't do crime. It does not pay.
It's simple. Ms. Silva changed my whole life, period. I dealt dope in the community, didn't have an opportunity to do nothing, couldn't get none of y'all to pay attention to me.
If you don't pay attention to me, I'm going to sell drugs.
With her helping getting my record expunged, I'm teaching now in public education.
That is fucking terrifying.
And without her, my resume wouldn't be as extensive as it is. My community efforts speak for themselves. So I ain't going to take 2 minutes of telling y'all what I do, who I am. But if y'all don't consider refunding Ms. Silva's program, it would be a detriment to the city. Her program is the only program with results from the investment.
You sound high as fuck.
You all throw millions of dollars up against brick walls hoping for results for the past 4, 5, 6 COVID money years. And this is the only program that y'all can see the results. We ain't got to go into no other programs that y'all done funded, but this is the only program, the only one that y'all have given money to that says this person got their record expunged, this person got their license, this because this person got their license, they can go to work and provide for their family. Y'all funded a whole bunch of play. 3-hour stuff here, 3-hour stuff there. This is consistent work, and it affects my community, the community that's doing the most damage to y'all city. So as you were speaking, y'all do have a responsibility,
actually,
fiscal responsibility to Indianapolis and to the people that look like me. And this program,
good God, the fucking victimhood.
the only
The victim
program
card.
that has the numbers. Y'all enjoy y'all evening. Spend that money the right way.
Thanks for your comments.
Hey, I need you to spend money on me because I can't take accountability for my actions. How dare you?
Thanks for coming down.
Look at Perkins. He's laughing.
Sir, your name for the record, please.
Robert Booker. Yes, what he was saying, this program really works. It helped me get my license back, helped me get my record expunged. Not only me, but I'm from the Far East Side, and what was it, last year I watched this program affect 500 people in one day getting their license and expungements done. So this is a program that really works. I'm with Indy Peace Fellowship, and along with me and other workers there, we got our license back. We never suspended, so please do not stop helping them. Fund them, please. Like, they really help our community. I work alongside with them pretty much weekly, coming to them, bringing people reach out to me once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, needing their assistance. So I'll constantly bring people of all kinds, of all sorts, of all colors to them to get help. So it's a program that works. It's been working.
Actually, I don't.
Just let it continue to work.
Hope Hustler? Yeah, there it is.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
How you doing? My name is Demetrius Sims. I'm here simply as a second hand to the program.
Wait a minute. There are restrictions on here. 18 plus, indigent according to federal policy. Live in a hotspot or a promise zone. So you have to live somewhere in a certain area for you to be eligible for this Hope Hustler outreach program. Yeah. Interesting. What is this? Indigent.
Program. My cousin is in the program. I'm emotional. I'm sorry. I've seen the difference in him. I'm not in the program personally, but it makes me happy seeing him happy because the people that are around him. I guarantee that if he wasn't in this program and they weren't a part of his life, he wouldn't be a part of mine. So I'm here just to be a witness to say that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have my cousin in my life. I'm extremely emotional about it because I feel like these are the things that matter the most to people in the city.
Good God. You know, I went at it with, who was the guy that ran for mayor? I forgot, but he said something about, they're like highly emotional. I'm like, yeah, that means they're like, could be more violent, more easily violent if they don't have emotional intelligence. And this guy can't keep it together.
And without something like this, you will lose a lot of people to self-harm and who knows what else. So again, as a convicted felon myself, I understand the purpose of these programs and how much they mean to people. And again, I'm emotional and I feel some type of way about this program simply because my family member has changed his life totally in a completely different direction because of this program. And it's not because of the choices he's made, it's the choices that they've helped him make. They've given him the option and they've given him the opportunity to make better decisions. And each time they've given him that option, he's made a better decision. So again, just as a witness, I can tell you from secondhand, it changes lives. And that's all I ask for you to do is think about it when you make your decision, and think about the lives you will change.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
comments, sir. Thanks for coming down to see.
So why does the city have to fund it though? Why can't they don't they have some kind of grant person and they get federal funding or state funding? Or she works for IU. I'm sure they know people.
Ms. Controller, did you have?
Oh shit.
Okay, so yeah, let's, you're always on the list. Sir, you can come on.
Good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Porter Taps, and me and Thomas Ridley is co-defendants, and we did 22 years in federal prison together. And our vision for coming out of prison to when we once was selling drugs and doing things in our community, we wanted to give back. So this is where one like me started at. Started in Terre Haute, Indiana, in 9th State Penitentiary in Terre Haute, Indiana, in the law library. And we said when we got out, we wanted to do something to help other people in the city of Indianapolis. And so this is where this came from. And Professor Silva came right in. We got out. She embraced us, you know what I'm saying, and brought her people in. And this is what you see, the results of this you see, where it began and where it's at. And I'm the chief mentor for Thomas Ridley, one like me, because I'm a Hope Hustler worker, and I do drafts for Hope Hustler. And I couldn't tell you how many people that have come before me and my other co-workers, and they've cried tears when we tell them that they'll be valid in 48 hours, or 20 to 48 hours, they had a driver's license back. They haven't had it in 15, 20 years. I've had people shout Jesus out, you know, real loud in there because of the help that we provided for them. So
you're saying if they believed in God? I'm just asking a question here. If people were more involved with religion, then they would not be committing crimes. It sounds like what you're saying.
The funding that we're requesting is much needed because people in the community need it, and they want us to help them, but we can't help them without funding. So I ask you all to consider, you know what I'm saying, refunding our program so we can continue to help people in Indianapolis. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your comments, for coming down. Ms. Controller, you had something to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Reardon. I'm a resident of Indianapolis, and I am also the city controller. The Office of Finance and Management, which is my responsibility, with its grants team, has been responsible for the payout of all of the ARPA dollars that we have issued in grants to organizations, including the organization that's represented tonight. Just for purposes of clarity for the council, Thomas Ridley, one like me, originally received an ARPA grant in the amount of $2.6 million in 2023. We followed their spending plan as we do with all of the ARPA grant recipients, just to make sure that they were going to be able to spend all of that money down within the allotted time, which is the end of this year, 12/31/24. If the money is not obligated by that time, then we are required to return it to the Treasury. So my grants team and my finance management team has been working very closely with the grantees to monitor the rate at which they're spending to make sure that they're going to be able to get that money obligated and out the door so that we don't essentially forfeit it. So earlier this year, we met with Thomas Ridley, and we said, folks, your program's great. You're getting great results. People love it. Are you going to spend the whole $2.6 million? And they agreed, no, we're not going to be able to spend all of that money. So they signed an amendment to their grant contract, which I have forwarded to each of you by email. If I had known that this would be an inquiry tonight, I would have put it up on the screen for all members of the public to see. I've had a number of inquiries about this issue from the chairman, from the county prosecutor, and I've responded in the same way. They have received $1.8 million. They were in agreement that they couldn't spend the remaining $800,000 in time. They signed an amendment so that we can repurpose those funds and don't have to forfeit them, essentially. There's no question that this program has a lot of people who have received tremendous value from it. This decision had nothing to do with the merits of the program. It was just our oversight of the financial management of the grant by the organization, and they weren't getting the money spent, and so now we're going to repurpose it and use it for other things. I think maybe they regret the agreement to do that, but that's what we have, and this has only come about in the last couple of weeks. So,
fun fact here, doing a little bit of research while the controller's talking. So I started looking at this Thomas Ridley thing. It is a 501c3 after all, and so Lonnie Silver is the registered agent for the nonprofit, which I thought was interesting. But obviously Thomas Ridley is the person. I'm going to look more into that, and they had $414,000. This was 2022. $413,000 in revenue, $280,000 in expenses. So it's not like they didn't have more money to spend. This was 2022, by the way. Very interesting stuff. I'm going to dig a little bit deeper on this thing.
So I just wanted people to be aware. This is not that we're shorting them or we're cutting them off or we don't believe in the mission. This is a fiscal management issue.
Well, there you go.
Comments or questions of councilors? Councilor Perkins.
Question. So you said that they had $2.6 million in 2023, and they were supposed to incumbent that money by 2024. Was there a possibility of extending their grant until 2025?
Our general policy is we are not extending those grants for the exact same reasons. If you have your money for a year and a half to implement your programs, that you need to do it within that time. But we didn't just do it arbitrarily, sir. We asked them, and they agreed, yeah, we can't get this done.
Have you extended the grant for other programs?
We may have done that for one or two that were very, very specific and smaller amounts of money.
Okay, so you have extended the grant for others into 2025?
I think we have, but we've over the very, very strong objection of my grants team.
But you have?
I think we have, but
yes, you have.
I think we have, sir.
Okay. Some of you might be feeling bad for this lady, but from what I have been told from a reliable source is that she has screwed over Republicans a lot. So this is very entertaining, watching someone who is very a heavy Democrat and Democrats getting at it. This is what I love to see.
Thank you.
The infighting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to be clear, Controller Reardon, according to the Treasury guidance, funds have to be obligated by the end of 24 and then spent by the end of 25. Is that correct? And so is the thinking in the office that those dollars will be then given to a new program, an existing program, and then they will get to spend those until the end of 25?
So we have so many different obligations that go unmet that would be eligible for ARPA funding. And so at the beginning of 2024, recognizing that obligation of the funds has to be accomplished by the end of this year. And most of the original grant contracts that we signed were by the end of this year. So the timeline and the parameters to these grantees were very clear from the beginning. We knew that we needed to start overseeing this so that we don't get to the end of the year and we have a lot of money that hasn't been spent that we have to return. So this is just really fiscal management, right?
So the funds were awarded, Mr. Chairman, can I continue?
Counselor?
The funds were awarded as a grant in 23. What, do you know approximately the month of the award and then when the funds were actually given to the organization?
I think this may be a grant that's done on a reimbursement basis. Is it? Is this one that we reimburse you, that you invoice us and we reimburse you, or do we? I think it is.
Professor Silva, would you mind coming to the podium and speaking in the microphone?
Well, I just want also in volunteering this information to be clear about it. I don't sign the checks on every grant myself personally. I have a team of a dozen or so people who are responsible for that. But I do want to emphasize that this was not a decision made on the merits of the program. This was strictly financial oversight.
Thank you, Ms. Controller. Professor Silva?
The controller is correct that this is a reimbursement grant, but the actual contract wasn't signed until June of 23. by then, the organization was deprived of spending 6 months of spending, which was about $400,000 to $500,000. Despite the delay, we still delivered. I don't think it's a fiscal management issue of the organization as much as it is a lack of understanding and communication of what the rules and the parameters were. If we had known that, we would be penalized in some way for not spending that down, despite the fact that 6 months were shaved off of our project from the beginning, we would have asked more questions. We're smart people in the organization, and we're very committed to the public. We gave the money back in good faith. The controller's office did not contact us. We contacted them.
Oh, here we go. This is going to turn into a big he said, she said.
Clearly not the type of organization that we are. So we contacted them and said, hey, we have to spend this down by 2025. We're going to have this money left over. We did it because we didn't want the project to be completely clipped in the middle of June of this year. We thought we were doing the right thing. So the controller's right. We now do regret that we gave that money back. But had we known that that was even a possibility to spend through 25, we would have kept that money. We're doing great things with it. So.
What, do you not know what the word obligated is?
Thank you, Professor.
And I think that's a little bit about my question, Mr. Chairman. Just sort of the difference between obligated, or how we say we allocate, the obligation versus the spend down. And so
what does allocate mean? What is
January 1 of 25 and December 31 of 25, is the difference of a year, and a difference of a year's worth of impact. And I think that is something that was maybe missed in that conversation, and could have warranted maybe a more robust discussion between those organizations. But I yield my time, sir.
Thank you, Councilor. Comments?
Yield my time. We're not in Congress, motherfucker.
I appreciate everybody's testimony here tonight. It seems like this organization is doing a lot of good in the community, helping people get back on their feet. My question, maybe this is for the controller, and forgive me for not knowing this offhand, but are we completely cutting ties with this organization where we're not going to fund them at all anymore? I know it seems like to me this organization is a unfortunate victim of how we've done things in the past, where when we get grant dollars, it's one-time money. So when that money's up, we're no longer funding that program. Is that the case here?
I think yes and no. One other point that I want to put up is that these are funds that are technically not part of the budget, so
they're ARPA funds.
Part of the resolution that's before you, but I know you.
That's why I said they're ARPA
funds. I'm absolutely happy to participate in that. These are ARPA dollars, not local funds. So it's not part of the 2025 budget. I think it's very challenging now when, we reached this agreement earlier in the year, and then we're being asked to, in a forum like this, to essentially reverse our decision and, perhaps being accused of.
Ms. Controller, hold on a second. I don't even think anyone's asked you to do that in this forum.
Well, it seems like it is, but perhaps not.
Hold on. I don't think anyone today in this forum have asked you to reverse their decision. So that's not accurate.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Maybe I was just misunderstanding.
Well, we were inquiring about the budget and about this program, but no one has asked you in this forum, like you stated, to reverse any decisions been made. We haven't done that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And,
Leader Mowry.
If I may, Mr. Chair, thank you. One thing I love to see in the city is a safer city. And if that means coming to the table with organizations like this that are going to help make Indianapolis a safer city to live in, I think it's worthwhile for us to sit down and have the negotiation. And I would hope the administration would agree. If they have proven results where they have done a great impact on the city, I would hope that we would be able to come to the table with them and try to negotiate something out with them.
I think this thing's a scam.
To try to help maybe with, we do fund a lot of different organizations here and there with help to be able to help them on their budgets. So I would just hope that in light of making Indianapolis a safer city. If this organization is doing that and they have the track record to prove it, we would come back to that table.
Thank you, Leader. Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Controller. Just for the record, the City County Council doesn't really vote on like grants or contracts or like specific rewarding of those. That is something that the administration does. But Controller Reardon, it seems like one of the things that I'm hearing is that they're inquiring about future funding possibilities. Is there specific grants available? You don't have to like name them or anything in this forum, but are there funding opportunities for an organization like this allocated in the 2025 budget?
There are no funds for this organization that come to mind that are in the 2025
that they would be eligible
budget.
for?
Well, potentially. This could be part of violence reduction. We already sort of have those grant funds going to the Indianapolis Foundation and then to the Indianapolis Public Safety Foundation, but future budgets, different story. One of the issues that I think we have discussed here before is that ARPA was a blessing, right? It was $420 million.
Blessing.
That really helped us deal with the acute effects of the pandemic, but it also gave us money that we could put into organizations to help build them and enable them to provide services like these, and then perhaps grow them into the future and maybe help them become self-sustainable. But the problem is that if they're great programs and we want to start funding them with local dollars, we're never going to have that kind of money in our budget to be able to fund all of them. So that's part of the decision-making process. There are many of organizations that we fund that have similar missions through the budget, but we have to pick and choose.
And that is the bigger picture here, is that this is how programs become immortal and they just become drains on the city or any local government. You have a funding source, and then you get this program going, and it's like, oh, the program is doing well, and well, I guess the city or the town or whoever has to start funding it to keep it going. And then what? You lose oversight on it.
Okay. So just to confirm, in the 2025 budget, if this organization came to you and was like, what opportunities are there? Unfortunately, in the 2025 budget, it sounds like that's probably not an option. You have to wait a couple years.
We don't have, we don't have funds in the 2025 budget. It's before you as we've presented it. So this is an ARPA grant, right? Which is technically not even part of the budget, but we're talking about it. So.
Thank you, Councilman Scary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've already had my hands up for a long time. Okay, real quickly, review. Your budget is about $400,000 to $500,000 a year, correct? Okay, you've given back $400,000. We have a $1.5 billion budget. I really feel that we should be able to find the funding for this. So hopefully we find it. Our budget's huge. We have lots of excess money, and hopefully we find this. Thank you.
That's a fucking lie. Hey, do you remember just the other day during the full council meeting where we had people like Ron Gibson saying that we're on a shoestring budget, we can't give any more money to DPW, or hey, we don't have enough money to give DPW? Every single Democrat said that we did not have more money to give to DPW to help fund the roads. But according to Mascari, we have a bunch of money. Are you shitting me?
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to remind this body and anybody watching, it was, I believe, late 2021, our full council passed a resolution that required the city to actually follow up on the ARPA dollars and how we spent them. And it was something that I personally drafted and put forth. And the purpose of that was I knew that we were putting forth a lot of dollars towards organizations that we could have potential wins out of, but we could have ones that we put the money in, nothing came out of. What I'm hearing today is that we've put money in one with ARPA dollars that looks like we found a winner with. And beyond that, I would really encourage that whichever office is required by that statute or that ordinance, follow up on those. And specifically, it sounds like something that this body, as a committee, would be interested in hearing in terms of the ARPA dollars that went to support public programs that support criminal justice initiatives, to understand what those dollars went to and what KPIs came out of them and the metrics, so we can have broader discussions about when we're looking at these budgets and making sure that we're funding the right ones that are doing the right thing for the community. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Carlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Controller, do you know offhand a rough number of the...
Going back to Michael Paul Hart, yeah. I mean, there really should be an oversight committee on this. On any time there's local money going to funding some of these programs. Like, where is it to the point where it's mission accomplished? Like, how is there a way to measure it?
amount of dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act that we will have in the bank, whether you know currently or January 1, what 2025 dollars that are maybe no longer obligated or are maybe sitting there?
We are in the process of doing this exercise with many, many grantees. There are many who have voluntarily come back and said, we can't spend the money, so we've amended their projects. There are some who are trying to adjust their spend plan. There's the example of LISC, which was highly publicized in the media. We're funding that through the end, most of those grants through the end of the year. So the answer is it's kind of a moving number. But we've been working closely with Greg and Leonette to arrange a time when we can come to the council to ask for a reappropriation of those funds. The timing is tricky in order to get it done by the appropriate time, but we're going to come to you with that. We just don't know that number now. As you can imagine, when you're trying to wrangle that much money,
sure,
it takes time, and
well,
it's moving around.
And I appreciate that, and I know it was originally $420 million, and I believe, Councilor Hart, you are correct. It was quarterly, possibly quarterly updates, and I believe those reports were to be sent to the Admin and Finance Committee, if I recall. So that would be definitely a question for Council. I do, though, think that knowing that original number, knowing that some of those dollars have sat in the bank and actually grown investment and interest income, I think is also something that our council would be interested in from the admin and finance perspective. I also know that a lot of those dollars out of the $420 million went to public safety, and I do believe this program is a public safety program. And I know it impacts families, and so I think we need to take a look at what dollars we possibly have through the remaining of the year and then next year, especially when we have credible programs and leaders who did spend the money appropriately and did produce results. As my colleague shared, we found a winner here. This organization definitely meets people where they are, and I appreciate that. I know it's very difficult, especially in some of these zip codes that are just highly impacted and disadvantaged in many ways. And I guess the final request I would have, Mr. Chairman, is if Professor Silva could forward the email from Prosecutor Mears to our clerk or something to share it with this body to talk about the distinguishing factors between the two programs. We do oversee the prosecutor budget, and so it would be of interest, even though we don't oversee the grants, as Councilor Hart said, to better understand the different types of programs, especially impacting those
she just
individuals
fucking
returning,
yaps, man.
back
Good
to our
God.
community. And then one final comment. We as a body, specifically this committee, allocated that $45 million initially to go into the Indianapolis Foundation grants and some of those public safety grants. And very similarly to Councilor Hart, it's difficult to go through and monitor those things. And even some of the organizations that I'm affiliated with also gave dollars back. And it's disheartening, again, when an organization like Hope Hustlers or Keys to Work is giving back 6 figures plus of money when we could be paying wages and changing lives. And so I really want to work with your office, Controller Reardon, to make sure that we are not giving any federal dollars back to the government, but putting them to work right here in the city of Indianapolis. Thank
Yes,
you, Mr.
ma'am,
Chairman.
that's the plan.
I would prefer my tax money coming back to me. And then if you want to donate to people, You can.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, Controller.
What do you want, Fiona?
So with the ARPA dollars we have back that we're getting ready to reallocate, those unobligated dollars, is this organization and maybe others where there was some confusion and miscommunication back in the running to receive any of those dollars? Can we advocate to get some of their funding back for 25 and this reallocation that you're going to bring to us at some point?
Oh, I'm sure we can. I mean, I want to stress that the primary reason, this was an easy one for us because they agreed, but they have changed their mind. And so we're where we are. And so you can.
I guess I just want to make, are they back in the running for this pooling of dollars, or are they out of the list because they signed that? Can we amended their agreement? Can
One
we
more
amend it again?
so that they can get 2.6 versus 1.8?
Right, yeah. I
So
guess
I
could we
am
amend it
being
back?
asked to do that now.
No,
sorry.
I'm asking, is it possible?
But not at the time.
When you said it.
Yeah.
Well, I am now. So I
So,
just,
are they back? So we have this money to reallocate. Are they back?
Oh, I love it when there is Democrat infighting. You know, all the time when we see Democrats are like, oh my God, the Indiana Republicans are having infighting, da-da-da. It's like, guess what? You guys do it too. And I'm here to watch.
Back in the list now that we have asked.
Whatever you wish.
So, yeah, I don't want to negotiate
No, I'm not.
contracts
I'm just
and
asking.
requests on the floor, so.
Yes,
Believe
that's
me.
what I'm asking. Is it,
I
are they
think the question is eligibility, but I don't want to.
Yeah, why are you talking about it here?
Oh, no, not
But,
that. I'm just asking, yeah, is it eligible? Is that an option?
Well, it was originally an eligible expense when the grant was originally allocated way back before my time. There are many, many situations like this, and so if you'd like to be involved,
So
let me know.
are
I'll
they
put you to
eligible?
work.
So are they eligible to receive it or not?
This is an ARPA eligible expense. Yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Controller. Councilor Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to echo that. You opened the door that you're going to bring some real allocation back to us later on this year, and so the door was open to ask the question whether or not they're eligible. I do want to talk with the members of the organization and the advocates, right? So, you know, as councilors, we receive like hundreds of emails every day.
I don't believe that at all.
About, you know,
I honestly do not fucking believe that at all. I would guarantee that most people don't even know how to contact you.
whatever folks want to advocate for. Here it is that we have a program that's making a major impact in the community, and I hate that we're having this conversation now, today, and not 2 months ago when we started this budget process. And it speaks to me of the importance of advocating for individuals that might not have the voice or the space to advocate for themselves. So I want you to know that there are counselors that are sitting in this room that are advocating for you, because you might not have the avenue and the voice to advocate for self. So, again, I hate that we're having this conversation today. We've been going through this budget process since feels like forever, and we're down to the last couple of weeks. But know that there are those of us that see the value in this, see the value in our community, in making Indianapolis safe. And thank you, my brother, for making this decision 20-something years ago.
My brother.
And making sure that this comes to pass. We are advocating for you, and I'm hoping that the comptroller could hear that and take that back to her team.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hart.
Thank you for getting reckless drivers, complete felons that have destroyed their communities with the drugs that they were selling. We really appreciate them still not having any accountability for their actions and blaming the government for them doing crime. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to state it for the record and for our friends on TV and the news that it was Proposal 58-2022 that the full council passed, and it required two things: that the mayor shall present an annual report to the full council annually that explain the data and metrics demonstrating progress and accompanying the set of priorities related to expenditures from the American Rescue Plan Act. And then the second thing is that the department and agencies who received ARPA dollars should present or shall present quarterly reports to the assigned committees at the section of the committee chairperson. So you'd have the discretion at least, but there were quarterly reports that we could have been seeing for the last couple of years on these dollars. So.
And whose fault is that? That's what I want to know, but we're not going to talk about that, are we?
I'd still love to see those things, and for our two new counselors, you learned about those tonight.
Thank you, Councilor Hart.
Ta-da.
Anyone in the audience? We're going to go back to the public comment on the budget for 2025 for public safety and criminal justice portion.
I can't wait.
My name's Noah Leininger.
Oh, there we go.
So the city's Office of Financial Management has stripped funding away from critical programs like urban farms, groups fighting food apartheid, and now apparently they've also defunded reentry programs. Hopefully, like counselors are saying, that'll change.
They haven't defunded anything. It's part of the ARPA, dipshit.
But, you know, that is their oversight, indeed. I would simply recommend that you not...
We are all this lady. Hold on. We got to back up a little bit. This lady was at the full council meeting, too. Keep an eye on this lady.
Now, apparently, they've also defunded reentry programs. Hopefully, like counselors are saying, that'll change. But, you know, that is their oversight, indeed. I would simply recommend that you not give IMPD, what was it, $25 million in overtime? Like, they're sitting here on their phones. Like, are they getting overtime dollars right now just sitting here?
Well, they have to make sure that people like you keep your 2 minutes on, or if any kind of scumbag comes over there and clocks you in the fucking mouth, and they have to pull them off of you because you're such a little bitch. That's what they're there for.
I would suggest that you, instead of giving them $25 million for overtime, instead put that money, this will sidestep the whole grant and financial management and oversight excuse, into the programs that these people have so passionately defended. And that $25 million would multiply 10 times over what they're asking for.
How?
That would be programs that can help bring people back out of the slave labor camps that y'all call prisons and back into society on this side of the world.
We both did the same thing.
And since Councilor Carlino mentioned investment income, I would just reiterate the call from your constituents for the city of Indianapolis to fully divest from the Zionist entity and weapons manufacturers profiting off of the genocide of Palestine.
There we go. There we
Thank you for your
go.
comments, sir. Anyone else? Budget 2025.
Oh, jeez. Remember, this guy is a teacher, okay? Let me show you something about this fucking prick. This guy is a public school teacher. This fucking prick. He works for IPS. Look how many jobs he's had because each school district has not liked him. Everybody, look at that director of bands. Okay. General music teacher. Dude couldn't even teach people how to play the clarinet. That's how bad he was. This dude is teaching your children about socialist ideology. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? That's all I'm asking you. You want, this is why kids aren't able to read or do math. It's because of clowns like this fucking guy.
Welcome.
Hello.
By the way, he is very good friends with Jesse Brown, obviously.
Chairman Robinson and counselors. My name is Emily Schrock. I serve as
Oh my
Chief of
God.
Staff for the Marion County Prosecutor's.
This woman is the devil. Not even joking. Some would say unironically, but this lady is a demon for sure. The whole Schrock family are demons. 100% liberals, very well connected. And all they want to do is ruin the city with their liberal policies. It's pure scumbaggery.
Prosecutor's Office. So I just wanted to speak on the budget itself and make sure that there's a clarification in support of Hope Hustlers. There was an indication that our Second Chance program is the same as the Hope Hustler program. So I just want to be very clear to the council that our office does not have a line item for Second Chance workshops. We bring those results to you every budget season because it is successful because of partnerships with Hope Hustlers and other community organizations. We have decided to allocate our budget that you give us to do that program, but like I said, this would not be a double spend in the budget by any stretch of.
So they are getting money from the city.
Of the term.
So the city is saying no. Actually, the prosecutor's office is saying we need more money, and then they say, oh, it's because we can't pay our attorneys, our legal services. We can't pay them. And then what happens when they get the money? They give it to them. They give it to somebody else. And people like Ryan Mears, just like this demon Schrock, she's not handling any of it. She's like, nope, we want a reason to bitch. We want a reason to cry. Otherwise, you won't give us any money. The prosecutor's office needs to have more oversight on it. 100%. We need to look at the books.
Before Professor Silva put this grant together, we maybe helped, 500 to 800 people a year. The first year, and by the way, half year, starting in June of 2023, when Hope Hustlers started, our numbers almost tripled by the end of the year in a 6-month period. So I just want to stand in support on behalf of the prosecutor's office, but also answer any questions you all have as to the reasoning as to why the prosecutor's office can't support this work, because we are embargoed from talking to individuals that it impacts, because we have an ethical duty to be an adversary, and it is what it is. And that's why we need people like Professor Silva and Jennifer and this whole crew to actually do the work. So we will be doing the work tomorrow from 10 to 1 at Warren Township Government Center. We'd love for you to come see it, but really appreciate all your comments about this being a program that works, and we hope that something is found to help them.
These people are the fucking worst. All these people are very, very pro-criminal. You have to understand that. There's like, you know what? He just did something bad. Chucky Harrison said something similar to that. They just made a bad decision. That's all. Really? Because last I checked, raping and thieving and driving while intoxicated multiple times getting caught, that's the kind of people that Schrock and Mears want back on the road. Yeah, fuck you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming down. Anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. I am a social worker with Hope Hustlers,
State
as
your
well
name
as
for the record.
Ashley Johnson with
Thank
2
you.
E's.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And so I am a social worker with Hope Hustlers. And so since we're talking about budgeting, I'll be out of a job. My coworkers will be out of a job. We also
if we don't have city money, we won't be able to have a job.
work closely with mental health. So not only do we do driver's license, not only do we provide housing, not only do we provide food, we advocate heavy for mental health. So that's what we do for the community. But now you guys, what the budget says, they're gonna take money away from us. That's taken away from my household and my
Womp
coworkers.
womp.
So that leaves us in the shamble. But not only that, with IMPD, we are violence reduction. We do that. We are first line. So if somebody
not
call
actually.
us on a cohort or somebody come into one of these outreach events, they let us know, because we are real people. They see us, they comfortable with us, with talking to us about different situations, people that I don't even know. I can come up with shelters, food, housing, resources. We have food and resources sometime at these events to be able to give to other people. So it's just horrible to even think about something that is working, because it is a lot of programs out here that doesn't work, and the money goes, we don't know where it come out of my check, all for IMPD, not to make me feel IMPD.
Look at
they're
Noah's.
there with us. Don't get us wrong, but
Very anti-police. Another Hope Hustlers are saying they're anti-police.
safe in the neighborhood resources. They are not able to do what we do at Thomas Ridley's One Like Me, period.
I would love to have an experiment, like an actual experiment of where you have a no police zone. Because I would guarantee you within a few days, you will be begging for the police to come back.
So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
It'll turn to like New Jack City.
Councilor Renee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everybody for coming this evening, and want to thank Dr. Silva as well. Don't agree on everything, Dr. Silva, Professor Silva, but I do respect and appreciate all the good work that you have done with this program. I just wanted to make this clear, because at some point we're going to be taking a vote here on proposal 264. And I just don't want there to be any confusion. I would expect 264 to pass, and so when that does pass, that is separate from the funding we're talking about with this program. And so I hope we'll see 264 pass, and then I hope that we'll be able to, outside of this meeting, in another forum, be able to work and see if the existing ARPA dollars that Controller Reardon referenced a few moments ago can be reallocated in some way. Don't want to talk about negotiating right now, don't want to talk about contracts and things, but it would be my hope that we'll pass this public safety and criminal justice portion of the budget tonight, and that we'll have an opportunity to reconnect with you and your folks and see if we can hopefully have some better explanation as to the process and see how we can plug some of these dollars back into your program, which is obviously doing incredible work in the city.
Thank you, Councilor Nate. One thing, though, I do want to make clear is that when the public comes down here to speak, they're not separating our dollars into Character 1 and Character 2 and ARPA funds, budget. They don't know that. They know it's the budget. So I've heard 3 or 4 comments about these funds are not in the 2025 budget. They're separate funds. The general public don't know that.
You want to know why? Because they're stupid. Well, maybe not stupid, but definitely ignorant.
All they know is public safety related.
Stupid.
They come down here to speak in favor or against something, so they have a right to speak. We don't have to separate those funds like that. They don't know that.
Yeah,
So
well,
keep that in mind.
and I don't know if you're referencing my comments, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
not just yours, but the controller mentioned it. Councilor Renee, hold on, Councilor Renee. The controller mentioned it several times that these funds are not a part of the budget. My point is, the general public doesn't know that. They know that it's public safety, it's reentry, it's saving lives, and this is the budget. So they don't know that this ARPA funds are not a part of our 2025 budget. So I'll make that very clear. They come to speak for that, and we know it's separate, but they don't.
So why did we let them speak then? Didn't that the person who's leading it was just like, we're smart people? Didn't Lonnie Silva say, we're smart people, we can get this figured out? It's like, okay, well, obviously you're not if you're bitching about ARPA dollars. This is the budget lady.
So I just want to make that part very clear. Councilor Renee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to make it clear, thank you for making your clarification. I want to make it clear that these folks don't feel like they came out this evening and hear that our body here this evening passed Proposal 264 in some way would believe that we are sending them away with nothing. That even though that we are passing this proposal tonight, I expect that we're still going to work in the next few months to see the ARPA dollars, which again are separate, go back in some way, shape, or form. So I think that they should be here tonight. I'm glad that they brought it to our attention. I think that we need to connect better so that we can have these conversations earlier in the future. I think it's very important that we don't send them out of here this evening thinking that we passed the budget and therefore there's no hope as it relates to their future prospects next year.
Thank you, Councilor. Comments? Councilor Carlino.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment back to Councilor Ane. I hear exactly what you're saying. I agree with you, and I was going to make a similar comment because I have, friends and colleagues sitting here that if I'm going to have some explaining to do if they don't understand that distinguishment. So I thank you for you articulating the difference between those two.
It's so easy. One was federal funding, the other one is city funding.
Same to you, Mr.
If you
Chairman.
don't get that, then
we are very
I don't know what
much
to do for
mired
you.
in a $1.65 billion operating budget, and this discussion was warranted by the public. I'm thankful for everybody who came forward and spoke tonight because I didn't know this.
Oh,
I'm the vice chair of this committee. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
And I looked several of you in your eyes today.
Oh my
and
God.
so I need to do better.
Oh
and
my
I will
God.
Be supporting our
Stop
current budget.
it.
But
Stop
want to definitely let everyone know that I will let Controller Reardon.
She's gonna
put
have
me to
crocodile
work
tears
as she
now.
needs to make sure these dollars go out the door and not back to the federal government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Additional comments from councilors?
Are we done now?
Last comments from
We
the audience.
literally
Anyone
spent
else?
an
2025.
hour on this thing. Over an hour on this. That we should have never even talked about in the first place. Because it
Last
had
but not
nothing to
least,
do with the budget.
I'm Allison Luthi. I'm the executive director of the Martin Luther King Community Center, and we are a host for some of the outreach sessions. But that's not what I was. This is not what I was planning on.
Oh, so that's what you meant by the picture.
I'm saying, but as I was listening to the conversation,
Oh,
we were at one
no.
point a grassroots organization, and now we're not because of our because of our budget. And so we partner with organizations like this. And I think we have multiple streams of funding, some of it federal, and it is very, very complicated. And so I think we have legal requirements, we have fiscal requirements, and we have executive order opportunities and executive decisions for people who are put in public office and in servant positions to really work on that. And it's okay to change our mind. It's okay to say, that's what we normally do, and we could figure out a way to make this work. And I'm not here to negotiate a contract either, but I think the more information we gather and the more questions we ask, we really could get the money. I believe there's enough money to solve the problems that Indianapolis is facing. We have to get it in the right pots, in the right places, at the right time. And just because the federal
Oh, if only we were in control. Well, guess what? You keep voting for the same people and nothing's changing. In fact, it's getting worse.
federal government has put this restriction on us, we can figure this out. And I think we have to be willing to work with people who are experts in their area and might not be experts in figuring out which money to spend first, which one to spend by the end of the month, which one to spend by the next month. And then federal money has like that allocated and obligated, and
those words are so confusing, apparently.
lots of tricky terms that I think counselors don't know how to run nonprofit organizations all the time, and nonprofit organizations often don't know how to be grassroots organizations. And I think by hosting this conversation and being open to really understanding how that money gets into the pockets of Indianapolis residents is really, really important. And we have a ton of money.
I want
and
my
this is an
tax money
opportunity
back.
to think about how you can really have impact. So
How about you give me back my money and I'll decide what I want to do with it.
thank you for considering it.
Thank you for your comments and for coming down this evening. The chair entertain a motion on proposal 264.
We have literally spent an hour on this thing.
We'll do a roll call vote, Mr. Clerk, on 264. The motion probably moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, you want to do a roll call vote?
Councilor Renee?
Aye.
Councilor Bain?
Aye.
Councilor Boots?
Aye.
Councilor Carlino?
Carlino, aye.
Councilor Delaney?
Delaney, aye.
Councilor Hart?
Looks like she's
Councilor
going to
Hart,
blow
aye.
it.
Councilor Muscari?
Ms. Gary?
Mascari, aye.
Jeez, did he just have a Biden moment? He just locked up.
Councilor McCormick?
McCormick, aye.
Councilor Mowry?
Aye.
Councilor Perkins?
Perkins, aye.
Chairman?
Robinson, aye. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So public
Thank
safety.
God that
justice,
is
the budget
over.
Successfully passed the committee, and we'll revisit this in a few weeks at the full council. Thank you, councilors. Budget.
All right, before we get into that, just to give you a little bit of research or a little bit of information what's going on here too. Did a little bit of digging on here. It showed that they were getting over $2 million of ARPA dollars. This was back in February, and the partnership between OPHS and Thomas Ridley's One Like Me has spanned 5 years, blah, 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 blah. So it shows that they were getting ARPA dollars, not budget dollars from the city. Any person who works in that organization should have knew that already. Then I decided to look to see where they're at, which I thought was interesting. So they're at an apartment in Castleton, and this is, of course, is very funny. They're business type, minority owned, nonprofit, black owned too, because then they get way more federal dollars that way too. They're like top of the list because all the federal money right now is affirmative action dollars. And then the director is Jawan Johnson, which is this person right here. And then that name's on there as well. Jennifer Poltrek. Is that PO? Points of contact. All right, I thought it was the other POC. And here you can see the board of directors: Thomas Ridley, Sarah Varner, Lonnie Silver, that guy, and this lady, and this person. Don't know what that is, but I don't know. Lakeisha Jackson has the same thing too, where she gets like $500,000, but the nonprofit is at some kind of apartment building. That's just why I hate nonprofits. That's why I don't like charities. That's why I don't like any of that crap. What I don't like mostly about it is how much public money they get. If you want to get donations from people, go at it. Don't give a shit. But if you're getting tax money. You're getting taxpayer money for this crap. No bueno. Absolutely disgusting. I don't like it, but let's continue.
Successfully passed the committee, and we'll revisit this in a few weeks at the full council. Thank you, councilors. Last up on the agenda, proposal 314-2024, amends chapter 441, article 3 of the revised code of the consolidated city of Indianapolis and Marion County, that a new division 9 pertaining to illegal street activity.
Mr.
We'll
Chairman,
take-
I actually have an amendment
Yeah,
for this.
hold on one
Whenever
second.
you're ready,
Yeah,
sir.
Thank you. And as they exit the chamber, we'll have Deputy Chief Professional Standards Richard Riddle and Chief Legal Counsel Ann Harrington come forward, please. And they'll be speaking to this proposal 314. You guys can come forward to the Chief. You guys come up front. You want to have a seat? We may be here a while.
Papa Squat.
Ms. Harrington, you can come forward.
Pick a chair, any
Thank
chair.
you both. Councilor Carlino. Yes, sir. You have an amendment.
I do have an amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully move that proposal 314, section 441, strike the word administrates the need for.
Amend proposal 314 for Councilor amend.
It's the need for section 8. And with that, sir, I so move. Just some cleanup language, Mr. Chair. Thank you for all of you sitting through that with me.
I was going to ask you, you want to summarize that, but.
There's
let's clean
3
up.
minutes of hell,
Let's clean up.
basically.
Thank you, Councilor.
Longer
There's
than
been
that, I think.
Motion on the floor to amend proposal 314. Is there a second? Comments or questions on the amendment for Councilor Carlino? Anyone? The chair entertain a motion. Motion is probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. The proposal 314 now has been amended. Deputy Chief Riddle, you got the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Committee. My name is Deputy Chief Richard Riddle, and I am joined this evening by Miss Ann Harrigan, the Chief Legal Counsel for the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. We come before the committee to request your support and do pass recommendation on Proposal 314, which amends Chapter 441, Article 3 of the revised code of the Consolidated City of Indianapolis and Marion County to add a new Division 9 pertaining to illegal street activity. Ms. Harrigan, Detective Doc Hughes, and I authored this proposal to combat the growing number of illegal street takeovers and spinning events through the city of Indianapolis. The city of Indianapolis has a rich history of automobiles and racing. While Indianapolis is named the Motor City Racing Capital of the world, our city has gained notoriety for individuals with fast cars coming to the city to take part in illegal street takeovers and spinning events. This is not a recent phenomenon. This has been plaguing our city streets and private parking lots for nearly 4 years now. Last year, several proposals were introduced at the Indiana State House, but failed to gain bipartisan support to increase certain criminal penalties for these activities within Indianapolis and the state of Indiana. Therefore, IMPD now comes before the City County Council to enact a new ordinance, civil penalties, and to permit the towing and holding of the vehicles involved in these illegal activities. Several high-profile incidents and media-grabbing headlines have occurred over the past few years in regards to spinners and illegal street takeovers. IMPD has investigated shots fired as an intimidation tactic by individuals engaged in illegal spinning activity near our officers for simply doing their jobs. We have also investigated a hit and run involving a person struck and critically injured while being a spectator at an illegal spinning event. We believe these events have resulted in shots fired and persons shot as these events break up throughout our city. Just 2 weeks ago, IMPD vehicles sustained over $8,300, again, $8,300 in damage at the hands of individuals engaged in illegal street takeover activities across the city. Lastly, the City of Indianapolis and private businesses have spent thousands of dollars to make parking lots more secure and less desirable for individuals engaged in this activity.
Oh my God, you gotta be
In closing,
kidding me.
This proposal is not about targeting authorized car shows and legitimate car clubs in Indianapolis. This proposal is not about preventing legitimate car clubs.
Not this, by the
from
way.
meeting and continuing their charitable
Something
events.
else I just found.
It's also not about interfering or impeding on individuals' constitutional rights or used as a tool to simply tow and hold a vehicle for simple traffic violations. What this proposal is about is ensuring public safety and hopefully saving a life. Ensuring public and private property is not damaged, increasing enforcement options for aggressive driving, and listening to our constituents' complaint about aggressive driving on the streets of Indianapolis. And lastly, finding a fix to our local problem without waiting on the Indiana State Legislature to act. We appreciate your consideration in passing this proposal and would like to take any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Ms. Herring, do you have any comments before we take comments from the council?
Just very briefly, this ordinance is aimed at not just preventing this illegal street activity, but also the secondary effects of that illegal street activity. And by that I mean people being able to get out of their driveways, people being able to drive down the street, our city streets, that we want to make sure are safe for our community. We want to make sure that our neighborhoods have the quality of life that they deserve. We want to make sure that everyone is safe. We want to keep crime rates down. We want to keep property values up. And the way that you do that is giving us the ability to enforce something to prevent these types of street takeovers.
Thank you so much. Comments or questions from councilors? Councilor Leader Mowry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you kind of hit on this, Deputy Chief Riddle. This is not aimed at all towards cars that are meeting up for like a car show. I live on the south side, so a popular one on the south side is at the Suds in Greenwood. Right. It's not aimed at anything like that. It's just, but if they turn into something where they're doing donuts and acting reckless, then that's when this comes into play.
That's correct, Councilor. What we traditionally see is we have car meetups. This information is advertised on social media. They'll do these illegal street activities. They'll do them in the street. They'll do them in the private parking lots. But again,
Town hall, don't forget.
Any reputable car club. We're not looking to shut down car clubs. We're not looking to shut down car meets. We're simply looking to target illegal activity that's occurring either on the city streets or on public property that our business owners are complaining about.
Perfect. I appreciate that clarification. And I'm fully supportive of this proposal, and the only thing that I would say in negative light towards this proposal is I wish it had a little bit more repercussions for the people doing these things. I believe we've heard from the chief that Louisville has their mandatory 6 months, I believe. I'd love to see something like that in Indianapolis to really put these people in a bind if they're doing these things on the streets, and making this to where it's an actual really impactful thing on them as well. I think this is going to be a step in the right direction. I appreciate all the work you've put into this, and again, I wish we could somehow figure out how to make this a little bit more of a harsher penalty for these folks.
Thank you,
Councilor. Thank you, Leader. Councilor Carlino.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions, so feel free to stop me and come back to me later.
We'll just do two.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm going to do 2 comments and a question.
Good
My
God.
comment is that this is concerning not only for, the physical safety of our officers, the, physical safety of our streets and our neighborhoods, but really ensuring that streets are not being illegally taken over so that emergency vehicles can even get through and render aid to those in need, especially in the early hours of the morning, late hours of the night when some of these are taking place after dark. My question is, one, what is the cost to currently get your car out of impound, and what is the maximum amount of time that it can be kept before we accept that fee of payment?
So I may have to defer to Deputy Chief Cunningham on the actual cost to get your car out of impound. I do know that our goal is a minimum hold of 30 days. However, it is written in here that the vehicle can actually be impounded and held until the adjudication of that case. So there could be penalties upwards of 30-plus days to have that vehicle hold. I do know that the current contract for towing those tow fees accrue by the day. So it really depends on how long that vehicle is held during this process to determine what that final cost could be for an offender.
And if I may too, I want to point out, the vehicles are being held to abate that public nuisance, right? The fact that these vehicles are a public hazard by engaging in the activity that they're engaging in, that's why it is that they're being held. But this ordinance, as proposed, has an ability for the person whose vehicle is impounded, the registered owner, to, within 10 days, be in court in front of a judge and have the judicial officer reviewing whether or not it's appropriate to hold that vehicle. So it's balancing those interests of, somebody having a vehicle and it being held versus the need of the public to be able to enjoy their safe streets.
Exactly. That's really what this comes down to it. If you don't want your car towed, don't be doing this shit. It's literally that simple. I mean, just the basic rules. And I posted a video, but I had another video of this whole situation. Really, what was, I think, the breaking the straw over the camel's back, as they would say. Is that what they say? I don't know. Who gives a shit? And it was at the Mexican Heritage thing. These guys had their Mexican flag on their hood, doing burnouts, doing the circling. I forgot what it's called. I'm tired. It's 10:30 right now. And then when the cops showed up, they were throwing cones at the windshield. They were basically attacking the car. And it's like, we already have a police shortage. And then you're going to bring like one, maybe two cops in there. And now these assholes have just made the claim of, I don't care about you. I can do what I want. Yeah, it's time to put the hammer down. I don't think this thing goes hard enough, personally.
Councilor Carlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate those comments. I would like to know, because I think where I'm going with this, Mr. Chairman, is thinking about, increased tow fees, holding for longer depending on if there are repeat offenders, and then thinking about really not just it's impacting the safety of our streets and the people in those areas, but it also has kind of become, maybe even by the organizers, incitement to violence as well.
Oh my God.
So I guess my comment, Mr. Chairman, is that
just the mental
while
gymnastics of this
an initial
blonde
sponsor
bimbo.
of this proposal, I'm concerned that we are taking criminal activity and maybe even stepping it down to a civil issue, and I don't think that we want to do that, because I do think we need to be very careful to think about, civil rights and the right to assemble, and innocent bystanders, and there's some language about a knowingly, a spectator knowingly being there.
Okay, so Carlino is on the side of criminals,
these events,
of these assholes.
and that's concerning to me. But to think about this issue not only as a street safety issue, to violence issue, which is, that's illegal. And so as we even take a look at how we frame this as an illegal street takeover, I don't know that there are any legal street takeovers unless you have a permit and you're closing down Georgia Street for, say some Olympic trials or something like this. I don't know that any member of the general public can shut down a street legally. And then my final comment, Mr.
That's really interesting, because I remember in 2020, all these protesters shutting down multiple streets in Indianapolis. I remember 38th Street being completely shut down going west, and IMPD actually helping them because they didn't want any problem. Do you remember when the protesters were going towards the governor's mansion back in 2020? And then the police were like, hey man, it's okay. We totally get you, but we need you to get you on this bus. And now all of a sudden she's saying, it's like, I don't know what's legal and what's not legal. This is what you voted for. You voted for this kind of stupidity. This blonde bimbo does not know what the hell she's talking about.
Mr. Chair, and I promise I'll shut up, is that,
Please do. Please do.
The comment about these cars, it's not the cars, it's the operator, because I ride in a scat pack all the time, and
Oh, wait a minute. Would you say the same thing about guns then? Huh? Huh, Carlino? You blonde bimbo?
I've never been part of a street takeover, done any kind of crazy spinning or any kind of stuff like that. Some of us just love our muscle cars. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Chief, you have a comment regarding the cost of these tows?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. According to the website, city website, BNS, non-consensual tow fee is $150 and $30 a day for storage once the vehicle has been on the tow yard for 24 hours.
Thank you, Chief. Comments or questions? Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Deputy Chief and your team. I do appreciate that the spectator language has been fine-tuned a little bit, because I did have some concerns about that at first, with us maybe lumping in people that were not originally knowing that they were going to be there. I did have a lot of questions around due process and everything, and most of those have been answered. But if someone's car is impounded during that 30 days that are included in this proposal, is there a way for them to petition to get their car back? And what does that process look like?
It's a good question.
Yes, there is. Once you receive that notice that the car has been impounded, you can, within 10 days, petition the court. So the court that's going to be hearing these violations is also the court that's going to be hearing about the impoundment. And so there would be the ability to address that within those 10 days.
And the person that was operating the vehicle, or someone that's in one of these categories here, are they the ones that have to initiate that process?
So notice will be given at the scene. So there would be someone, whoever's driving the vehicle would be served at that time. In addition to that, notice would be sent to whoever the registered owner is pursuant to the BMV. And that notice would be sent out by IMPD. And then the city prosecutor would pick it up from there in terms of that process once it actually goes into court.
Okay, so if someone petitioned to get their vehicle back before the 30 days.
Yeah, they could do that. They could go into court and ask the court to do that.
So in that court, does the person petitioning to get their vehicle back have the presumption of innocence? Is it the city's responsibility to prove at that hearing that this person or this vehicle was being used to commit one of these penalties?
Yes, so it's a civil hearing, so it's a preponderance of the evidence standard. The city has the burden to prove that this was an instrumentality that was used in this particular event, right? How it was used, if the vehicle was blocking the road, or was the vehicle, actually doing the spinning. I think that's something the court would consider. In addition to that, the court would look at, are we talking about, the value of the vehicle, a Cadillac Escalade, and this is someone's sole means of transport versus, a car that perhaps wasn't as valuable. All of those are things that the court can take into consideration when determining whether or not that hold should stay in place.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that, the person petitioning to get their vehicle back, that the burden wasn't on them to prove that they were not part of something.
No, and
so
I mean,
good to hear.
What we really tried to do was reflect that the person has notice and that they have the opportunity to be heard. And then at that point, it's going to be up to the judicial officer to make a determination as to whether or not that vehicle should continue to be held. But that will be something that the judicial officer would determine.
Yeah, appreciate it, and look forward to supporting the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you,
There we
Councilor.
go.
If I could add to that, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Chief?
The one thing that we really worked on, and a little bit, I'll say the lateness and the delay in getting this in front of the council, was exactly what Ms. Harrigan just explained as due process. It's really easy for IMPD to issue the ticket and wipe our hands of it and say, hey, let the court figure it out. But we wanted to make sure that we're bringing legislation in front of the council that goes through the entire adjudication process with due process in mind. So we worked really hard to look at what other cities were doing, what other cities pitfalls other cities had before implementing something like this, because we know that someone is going to take this to court. Probably somebody will sue, and we want to make sure that our legislation that we're bringing forward thinks through everything that we can, but more importantly, protects individual and constitutional rights. So, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will limit my questions to 2, if that's okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
No, we'll come back to you.
Okay.
I just don't think it's fair to do 6 or 7
No,
questions.
agreed,
So, yeah,
agreed.
we'll come back to you.
Just want to make sure we're all clear. I think this question is probably for Ms. Harrigan. The Timms versus Indiana case was a civil forfeiture of a Land Rover, and I didn't
That was a
know if
completely
that
different
was,
situation, but all right.
Basically, the Supreme Court said that we being the state of Indiana, couldn't take the really expensive Land Rover when the maximum penalty was only $10,000, just for all of you out there. But does this fall into that category where we might be taking someone's vehicle, or because they can get it back, it doesn't at all? That's my first question. Are we running against the United States Constitution here?
So the first most simple answer is we don't know, right? Because it's not a forfeiture. We're not forfeiting the vehicle. The vehicle is not being taken and sold, right? The vehicle is being impounded for a period of time to abate the public nuisance while that case is going on. And the person has the ability to get it back. The judicial officer who's evaluating it would use the decision in Timms and those factors that are set forth both in Timms, which was 2021, and Timms 2, which ironically came before that one. But those tests that are set forth there, the court would be able to evaluate and make that determination, and I think would then decide, is it appropriate in this circumstance for that vehicle to be held or not?
Great, thank you. I think that helps spell it out a little bit. And then 2, how does this operate in conjunction with criminal law? So you come onto a spinning scene in a parking lot, there's people everywhere. Certainly people are going to be arrested and taken into custody. Are they also going to be issued these civil citations? Does that run afoul of double jeopardy? I mean, can you get a civil ticket for the same offense where you have a criminal offense? Like, could you talk a little bit about how that would happen with the 2 tracks, and B, are there again constitutional issues there?
Sure. So the short answer is it depends. I'll give the lawyer's answer. So when you have these events, you're going to have some of the people who qualify for a criminal offense and to be charged under a criminal statute. The issue that we have right now is that a lot of the criminal statutes as written don't apply. So for example, there's like the speed contest statute, which requires 2 vehicles. Well, many times with spinning, you have 1 vehicle doing circles, so it doesn't fit. You also have under criminal recklessness and obstruction of traffic, unless you're talking about the lowest level misdemeanor, somebody actually has to be injured before it's a higher level offense. Having said all that, the case would be evaluated factually. We work with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, and they have filed this last, what Deputy Chief Hurdle was referring to, this weekend prior to last, there were 9 cases that were filed out of that, and those were the ones that fit statutorily into the factual.
I think one of them was
situations
illegal.
now. So there is the possibility of criminal charges. If someone also is charged, has a civil violation that is issued, that's handled completely separately. It is something that if they are both pending, the civil case is actually put on hold for the pendency of the criminal case, and the criminal case many times would take care of the civil case. But they are completely separate in 2 different tracks, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And but there are gaps where only the civil is what you're saying, where only the civil would apply.
That's correct.
Okay. And I think one of the things that I've heard anecdotally about this is the taking of the cars is one of the important or more important points of this ordinance. And so I'm thinking in my head that somebody who's having their car confiscated from them, impounded, is also going to likely be the driver or somebody that's going to have something criminal apply. So like there's somebody right there I'm seeing like is double, where you're saying like, okay, so the civil's gonna have to wait. So while some of the cases in Marion County can take over a year, so does that mean the car just remains impounded while the civil case, like, I'm kind of lost here in how, one, do we have constitutional issues, but two, how is this actually gonna work where we're trying to get at what we're doing?
So the double jeopardy prevents you being punished twice criminally for the same offense. So we've got criminal and civil going on. There's two separate things. If you had a situation where you had a civil case that was put on hold while Marion County's criminal system was taking however long it takes, then the judge in the civil case still has the ability to release the car. So, I mean, it's something, this is new. I mean, I can't say, you know.
I can already tell what's going to happen, too, is that we're just going to have to play it out. We're going to have to see what happens. And remember, this is what I don't understand, how these people got voted in. They're not going after regular people. They're going to like they're going after the most egregious offenders. Like that person was doing a burnout. That person was doing donuts. Like people that you could actually see that are doing it. That's who they're going after. Not some person who was like driving by and they saw them. These are the people actually committing the offenses.
What exactly
I don't understand what this is so fucking complicated for these people.
There is the opportunity
They're not just going to be going after random people.
for the judicial officer to
The
make
problem
that
is
review and say,
these
hey,
people like Breanne Delaney and Carlos Perkins and Carlino have so much liberal brain rot that they can't tell the difference anymore. And this is what happens when you live in echo chambers, and you're stupid, and they're low IQ, obviously.
this is the only means of transportation this person has, and they're charged criminally, so it could be a year before they get their car back. In this situation, I'm going to make a finding they should get their car back. So I think that there are a lot of unknowns. I think that's very true. That's, you know, unfortunately the situation we're in. But as DC Riddle said, you know, we looked at stuff from all across the country trying to find the best fit for Indianapolis, and this is what we came up with to make sure that we have that judicial review in place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to share a couple words, no real questions, but just to show my support. I've had a couple constituents call me about this over the past couple years. I've got the new sports park in my district, and just a story there for the counselors that might not know about that. It's a new park that's publicly funded. It was an empty parking lot that I had neighbors call me every single weekend because cars would come in there and start doing donuts, or AKA spinning. And essentially, the Parks Department, the city, the taxpayers had to pay to put little parking stops, or like little bumpers that you would go up to, and that's one example. I just had another example the other day. I've got the east side where I've got Brookville Road, I've got Southeastern, and I can drive on Brookfield and Post, and I can see tire marks, right? It's happening repeatedly. I can see it outside HOAs where you can see the tire marks. It's a constant thing. I've got neighbors that are calling me that are concerned about their safety because they see cars starting to congregate at some of these intersections.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what they're doing. It's usually at off times a day. And to me, this is
why we need vigilantes.
I'm blocking and tackling the city government.
As your future mayor of Indianapolis, I will deputize these vigilantes so we can take out these scumbags.
the individuals that are in our city. Infrastructure is the other part of the tackle part there. But while we're on the blocking side and making sure that we're doing the public safety, it's as regards. We got a lot of questions from the legal side of it, and I appreciate you doing that, but I'd rather do something than sit around and do nothing. And I think that's where we are today is, I'd rather be the do something city Indianapolis and make sure that we're being a prudent, proactive city council and administration. And I appreciate our police force and officers and chiefs and assistant chiefs and legal to bring forth these things that are putting us in a position to lead and not put our citizens at risk. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really have two questions, but I'm going to ask them in one. I also have had this issue in my district, 62nd Street between Guyan Road and Roderball. It was a private property. Folks were doing cartwheels all around. Neighbors were calling.
Cartwheels. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what they are.
Fence. And so we were able to stop in that way. So my question is really around authority over public versus private property, and then any conversation around state versus local law. And I would love to hear a little bit from our council as well, from I know, Council Pierce. No, she said no. But private versus public property, and then state versus local law.
So I'll address the law enforcement side of this, and I'll let Ms. Harrigan discuss the legal side of this. So a couple of things that come to mind, obviously, public streets are where traditional law enforcement occurs. We have state violations, we have local city ordinance that we can enforce upon. However, what we've traditionally tried to do, and even we have had some conversation within IMPD about trespass agreements with the private entities and homeowners associations about enforcing criminal laws on their properties on their behalf. What we find is there are a lot of private businesses whose parking lots are being torn up, and they're having to erect fences and other hardening measures to keep people out. I will say it's a little bit harder to enforce the law on the private property, but they have to come onto the city streets to exit the private lots. Usually their activity that we observe is, like Councilor Delaney said, recklessness or some type of criminal activity, which then allows us to stop the vehicle on the public street and do our investigation, and that may lead to criminal charges, or where we are now, it may lead us to nothing and we have to let them go. So what we're looking at is a little bit of teeth behind strengthening the ordinances that allow us to take enforcement action on vehicles that we can declare a public nuisance and seize that vehicle, write the ticket, and hopefully deter that activity from coming back next weekend, because that's what we lack right now. We lack a deterrence model, because now if an individual is ticketed and their car is towed, they can turn right back around and get it out and bring it right back to Indianapolis next weekend, and here we are again. So that's some of the reasons why we're putting some of the language into that law. Chief Bailey has told us, and I believe he's told several of you, that the intent is to go back to the State House. We do have what we believe to be some bipartisan support in both the Senate and the House to get some increased criminal penalties that will allow us to take more enforcement action. But like I said earlier, our hope is to get something on the books now for us to use, because even if we go to the State House early next year, this will not take effect until July of next year. So I hope that answered your question, Counselor, and anything else regarding the legality.
I mean, that's pretty obvious that I would be totally on board with increasing the penalties for these scumbags.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Real quickly, thank you, Councilor Perkins. I'm going to save our Councilor Pierce. I don't want to go to a legal rabbit hole tonight because Boots hasn't spoke yet either, so he's going to.
Well, he also showed up late to the game.
But Chief Legal Counsel Harrington's leading this effort, so tonight we're going to kind of defer to her legal aspects and perspective of this proposal. So, Counsel, is that okay? Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Boots, Legal Beagle.
Thank you, sir. Finally, my chance. Appreciate it, and I am all for this, so my questions are not to be viewed from opposition standpoint. I too have had one right outside my neighborhood, and it scared the heck out of everybody, right in the middle of the street at night. So a couple things. One, I think one weakness I see in this is the issue of private property versus public property. People don't appreciate, unless it's a city park or state-owned, everything else is private property. A shopping center is private property.
Yeah, but most likely they're going to say they don't want any of that stuff happening.
Unless those private property owners have that no trespass agreement, you guys are, pardon the pun, handcuffed. Doing something about it. So with that, I would encourage you to even have a public outreach program, which I've tried to do in my district about
Sure you
notifying
haven't.
business owners that they need to go to IMPD and get a no trespass agreement or stop calling me complaining about such events happening on their property.
Well, you are a Democrat, and you are part of the reason why Indianapolis is all fucked up.
And I've had business owners say, well, we want to be careful about doing that. And I say, well, then stop calling me. So I would encourage you to, as we roll this out, really educate the public and say, we want you to come to us, get an agreement so that we can help you prevent this from happening on your property. So that's just a comment. And has the constitutionality been tested? I'm sure in the other states, and I'm sure every statute or ordinance is different, so you can't, it's not pure apples to apples, but what have been the big constitutional issues and how have the courts treated them in other states?
Well, this is where it gets real fun. They haven't. So there are a lot of ordinances we looked at, Naperville, Illinois, Anaheim, California, Louisville, Kentucky, all over the country. However, and I, as recently as last week, talked to the legal advisor for Louisville, Kentucky's police department. And the answer is that these have not been tested. So what you have in front of you is a proposal and it's a draft. And so if there are things that you feel should be changed or tweaked, we encourage you to absolutely do so. There's no pride of authorship for us. We want it to be right and we want it to get it done. We just want to move it forward. Having said that, I think that one of the things is that we've looked at, as much as we could, the anticipated constitutional issues or claims. And I know, to go back to Ms. Carlina's question, Councilwoman, you asked about freedom of assembly, and so I wanted to circle back to that as part of this. It is an assembly, it is a group of people. However, just by virtue of being a group of people does not mean that there's a constitutionally protected right. Nor is it just because there's words that are being used to perhaps block a public street. That doesn't mean that you have a First Amendment right to engage in those words and block it off. And I would equate it to, in terms of the words, I think of the intimidation statute for criminal purposes, right? Where words can have an effect and cause people to engage in conduct against will. So the analogy here would be, I'm using my words to prevent you from going down that street in whatever way it is. Maybe it's a threat, maybe it's just words, whatever it is. But so that is not a First Amendment protected speech. Similarly, if you have a group of people who are engaging in illegal activity, or they are interfering with the constitutional rights of others, and by that, who are we talking about? We're talking about the citizens. We're talking about the people who are afraid to leave their neighborhood because their intersection is being blocked off and they can't get out. So you can't interfere with other people's constitutional rights just by virtue of the fact that you're in a group. So do I have all the answers for you? I unfortunately do not. But what I will tell you is that we have, through consultation with people across the country, as well as our own research, attempted to, as best we can, anticipate the issues and try to address them in the fairest way possible for everyone, and keeping all of the interests that we want to keep important at the forefront.
Thank you, Councilor Boots. Continue.
Yeah, just quick second question. How will the notice from IMPD go to the titled owner of the vehicle?
So what will happen is the registered owner of the vehicle, whoever is registered with the BMV, we will do a BMV check, and there will be a notice that goes out. It'll be a pre-printed, formulated thing that goes out to everybody, and it's going to have the instructions. Here's what has happened. Here is what you can do, and here's the way in which you can do it. So it's going to be the clear instructions that they can. And I will also say that we've talked about, in rolling this out, we are going to have our officers, we have a task force that works very regularly trying to deal with these issues. We are going to work with them, but we are also going to work with the other officers, setting forth, hey, when you have these circumstances and these situations, here's what you need to include. Here's what you need to include in your report. These are the facts that you need to look for. These are the things that are going to constitutionally be acceptable for someone to be violated or someone to be arrested if we're talking about a criminal situation. And in addition to that, the notice that is given to them is going to be the same thing as the notice towards the owner of the vehicle, where it's going to be, you know,
I can't
this is
believe
what it
we're
is,
still
this is where we
talking
need to
about
go,
this.
is what we need to do. So as much as possible, we are going to make sure that that information is put out there right away and for everyone and is understandable when everyone gets it.
And that notice will be mailed, regular
Yes, sir.
mail?
Yes,
And
sir.
is there any concern of any time limits that might impact if our, you know, local mail takes 7 days to get somewhere and they've
So-
only got 10 days to do something?
Oh, no, you have basically, you have 10 days to send something, but the court date would still be the court date. So let's say your mail doesn't get there until day 7, and so you don't have the ability to file anything before that 10 days. You still have the court date, which would be after that, which means the person could go to court on that court date, or they could file something in advance of that court date and say, hey, I want my car back, that sort of thing.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Carlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that question, Councilor Boots. I think, just to clarify, when you say the constitutionality of some of these impounding policies across the country haven't been tested, do you mean that they aren't impounding vehicles, or that those individuals who have had vehicles impounded have not appealed and sued those municipalities?
Yes. Basically to all.
They haven't
so-
impounded any vehicles in
No,
any of
they
these
have
places?
impounded the vehicles. In some jurisdictions, they've talked about crushing the vehicles. Doing that. But there have been impoundments, there have been vehicles that are held. What we haven't had, and which is why it makes it difficult for us, is those cases make their way through the legal system to where we have a published opinion to look at and say, okay, this is good, this isn't good.
So they haven't been challenged in court?
They haven't been challenged,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. That's the legal language that I was looking for. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I yield
Counselor
back. This
Counselor
is in
Newman.
Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have comments. I want to thank Deputy Chief Riddle and General Counsel for working on this. I know that you spent a lot of time, my understanding, throughout the country in terms of their policies and procedures, and I appreciate what I think is a thoughtful proposal to take on a very serious issue. I hope that this does a couple of things. So first, it provides some immediate relief to the citizens and the officers that are having to deal with these issues every single night. I also hope it gives the General Assembly a more definite understanding that these are serious local issues in the capital city, and I'm sure around the state, and they really need to address this from the state legislature. I know that Senator Freeman introduced some stuff last year, and I understand from recent comments he intends to do so again. But
Listen, if I become state rep, Paul and A, if you're listening, or anybody from the GOP, if you're listening, you can be damn sure that I'm going to be pushing something like that, or at least get on board with whoever's going to be doing something like that. With that being said, if the GOP doesn't help me, I can't win. And actually, you want to know who's on my shit list right now is Rick Snyder and the FOP, who refused to email me back, which I think is a complete dick move. So if any of the people from the GOP want to go and help me out with that, I'd love it.
I hope that this helps spark that continued conversation to see action. So I hope that this is a temporary measure in the city of Indianapolis until we are provided more concrete guidelines by the state. I also want to acknowledge that by no means is the proposal in front of us one of the more strict ones in the country. I think that if you would look at some of them like Louisville, which has been referenced, it would make you blush as opposed to reading ours. But I think ours is good. So I hope that if this passes the committee this evening and on to the full council next month, that if you find 30 days isn't long enough, if you find that there's some piece of it that maybe isn't as strong when applied, that you'll come back and maybe amend it. But I think that this is a good framework to hopefully, again, provide some support. And as Deputy Chief Riddle mentioned, this is the racing capital of the world. So I think that those who want to race, I'd encourage them to go over to the City of Speedway and see if they can qualify for the 500-mile race. And if they can't, then they probably ought to knock it off, because they're putting a lot of families, a lot of residents, a lot of officers in harm's way. And I think that this weekend, the past weekend, our chief's office, to the mayor's office, to the council have made it very clear we're not going to be tolerating that type of behavior in Indianapolis, and we are not going to turn our city over to folks running around as if they are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, damn right. Well said by Paul N.A. Really stepping up to the plate on that one. But also, hey, Marion County GOP, why don't you help me out a little bit, huh?
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, we do love racing on the west side. We love racing on tracks. So, so I wanted just to ask a question, just as general clarification. So when you say like the person that was driving the car versus the registered owner, at what point, so like they have to have permission to be driving the car, right? And so when they're getting that citation, you're towing the car. So if they didn't have permission, that goes to a different side, I guess I'm wondering, because if I get the letter and I didn't know my car was participating in that, right, by, not that it would be, but my spouse or my child or somebody else, like at what point...
Does she have a fan? She has a fan on her right now. I've been in that room so many times. It is not a warm room. She actually has a fan on her.
Turn into a criminal, it's still civil.
Sure, it could turn into criminal, because at that point, if you
Just like you could hear it. You hear something rumbling in the background with the microphone.
If you're the owner of the vehicle and you've not given permission for someone to use your vehicle, then potentially you're looking at a theft or a conversion. So if that were the situation, then that would involve the prosecutor's office actually reviewing that for charges. And I think in most of these situations, they're going to be reviewing them for criminal charges anyway. So we're going to be working in tandem with them and filing whatever it is that's appropriate, whether it's on the city side or whether it's on the criminal side. But to further that, it would be the person, once they get noticed, the registered owner gets noticed and goes, whoa, where is this from? They would contact the court. They would file a motion with the court, contact the court and say, hey, I didn't know my car was being used, my car is being held, what do I do? And then they could go in front of the judicial officer and explain whatever it is the factual situation is, judge would make the evaluation.
Okay, thank you. And then just one other comment, if I could, Mr. Chairman. As we're a family that loves to go to cruise-ins. We have a classic muscle car that we love to drive around and participate in community events as well as just evening drive-ins and cruise-ins. So I appreciate like trying to clarify the difference between the two, because there is that organized community that we have, and then there's the unlawful side of things where we're causing and so I want to, like, if folks want to join in, like, you know, if they just want to be out in their car, there are plenty of places around the city to go to do to be part of a community event and just not cause any trouble. So, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a follow-up from Councilor McCormick's first question there. If someone's car is stolen and then is used in a spinning event or something like that gets impounded, is the owner of that car responsible to pay to get the car out of impound if it was stolen in the first place?
So we have some discretion on whether or not we waive the fees for individuals that are crime victims and their car has been impounded. We have done that. It's on a case-by-case basis, so I can't tell you every single time that a person gets their car taken and is used at a crime that they're going to have their fees waived. It really depends on the set of circumstances and the authority given to us as chiefs to make that determination. But there's a very distinct possibility that if someone is truly a crime victim, and we've seen stolen cars show up and take part in these spinning activities and flee from us, and we get the car and we impound it, we normally try to return that car to the rightful owner without having to worry about any civil penalties or any fees that are associated with that.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Chief Bailey.
Yeah, quickly, this council passed an ordinance several years ago that gave victims specifically to stolen vehicles one-time waiver when their car is towed. Additionally, our Autodesk, 24-hour Autodesk, and the officers, when they encounter a stolen car, should be trying to contact the owner to come to the scene to pick that car up so it's not towed in the first place, if they have a good contact information. Otherwise, they can pick it up from the auto return, but this council passed an ordinance for crime victims to pick their car up. They still have the obligation to come pick it up, because in the rules of the contract negotiated between Business and Neighborhood Services and auto return, if the car's not picked up in a certain amount of time, auto return will sell it. That has nothing to do with us, but we do try to make notification, and only certain people in our agency have the ability to waive tow fees, myself included, and the deputy chiefs, if we can show that there's a nexus between a person being a true victim.
There we go.
Councilor
Seems
Scary.
pretty easy.
I understand. I'm going to final question.
Probably
I was
not.
going to ask about stolen cars also, but what is the percentage of stolen cars used in this? I understand in the West Coast, they steal cars just to do this. Do you have any stats on that at all?
Counselor, I don't know that we have good statistics. I'll have to reach out to one of the lieutenants that runs the task force for us. We also work in conjunction with the Indiana State Police, and they do a great job of partnering with us. What we have seen, though, are a lot of stolen cars that are coming into the city of Indianapolis, replated, revend, and that is obviously a problem that we're concerned about, but actual numbers are a percentage of the actual participants versus who's in a stolen car. I don't have that off the top of my head, so you'll have to get back with me.
Thank you
on
very
that,
much.
sir.
I will support this, though.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Carlino.
Thank you. Maybe the final question. This is a legal one, this body, the council, do we have the legal purview over amending the fee structure for the impounding of vehicles, or is that something that is determined by the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department?
I think that you have the ability to amend it in whatever way you see fit.
So it's a city ordinance?
Yeah.
The tow fees and the daily rates is a city ordinance, or is it internal IMPD policy?
It's not internal IMPD policy, and
Sorry, Chief,
For
he's
the
up and
tow-
down.
For the tow
Yeah,
fees, it's a private contract, so we can't.
So we.
But Business
you
and Neighborhood Services holds the contract for towing.
And
So
that is-
that's negotiated with auto return, those fees. I'm sure there's some schedule or accelerator in a certain time period. I don't know what that is. It's
Well, I'm just thinking, Chief, to try to think ahead, is that something that is sorry, it's a blanket fee, and it's not specific for certain types of crimes, where that initial impound fee for anyone is $150 and then $30 a day, and forgive me if I mess that up, but if there's an illegal street takeover and the car is impounded, is there a way that we can work with Business and Neighborhood Services to amend the contract to increase or accelerate those rates depending on the crime type?
I will speak to the Director of Business Neighborhood Services to understand that contract and get back to you. I can't
Thank you,
give you a
Chief.
definitive answer
I
tonight.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Hart.
Yeah, just really quick, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make the members of this body aware that Business and Neighborhood Services is currently renegotiating that contract at this time. So if that's any suggestions that you have or thoughts, now's the time to share them with the director.
There we go. Michael
Thank you,
Paul
Councilor
Hart with
Delaney.
the updates. Man, that's pretty awesome, actually.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make the point that I am in full support of this proposal. I am a co-sponsor of the ordinance. And
Oh, I'm sure you are.
I think it's really important to discuss the constitutional implications of this in a public forum, which is why I brought it up. It wasn't meant to be that I'm in opposition of it. I just think it's really important to discuss. So thank you so much for what you've done and trying to address a problem that we've all heard a lot about and affects all of our districts.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Hey, I'm not against it. I'm a co-sponsor of it. So this is going to be their new plan. They're going to criticize the fuck out of it, and then they're going to say, but I'm not against it. Hey, I'm a co-sponsor of it.
Thank you, ma'am.
That's like the why are you hitting yourself?
Thank you, Councilor.
Just like the
Anyone
pure
in the audience
gaslighting
care to speak
that
to
Democrats do.
Proposal 314. You have a list, Mr. Clerk.
Oh, I can't wait to
Mr.
see
Chairman,
who's going to be
please.
talking.
Cecilia Gomez.
Oh, yay.
By Nash.
Nash?
No, sorry about that.
Welcome and thank you for your patience.
Hi, good evening, councilors, city councilors. My name
Hello.
is Celia Gomez. I live in District 12 under President Bob Osley. I'm here to
This
vocalize
lady was at the full council meeting the other day. I think it was on Monday. Yeah, I think it was on Monday.
my opinion about Proposal 314, which I find to have language that overreaches and a disturbing implications for communal gatherings if passed. The language in 1A is extremely troubling because, quote, a group of motor vehicles or individuals who have gathered with the supposed purpose of participating, end quote, is illegal, in illegal street racing implies that IMPD has the ability to take action against people who have yet to commit a crime.
That's not how it works. It says a motor speed contest here. I have it right here. Individuals had gathered a location for the purpose of participating in such event, which is what? Racing. But you go off, Queen.
In the United States, according to the Constitution, we have the right to assemble.
Pay attention
and we are
to her.
innocent until proven guilty. This legislation violates this amendment in that it gives IMPD the
We're
sole
all
authority
her
to
right
determine
now.
our guilt without any checks or balances or concrete proof of a crime. If I'm approached by IMPD, for example, as part of a community gathering, and they say it's to race in the street, what will the outcome be?
You'll be arrested.
This legislation is so far-reaching that I worry for people participating in funeral processions, tailgating.
Oh, I
protesting,
know. We're
drive-by
all
demonstration,
her right now.
Trunk or treat. All of these.
It literally says a speed contest. That's what it says. What does trunk or treat have to do with speeding, lady?
Fall under the proposal's definition of illegal street racing.
Okay.
This proposal is fertile ground for racial profiling and collective punishment. And as a community member, I resolutely oppose this governmental overreach that infringes on our right to
Oh,
assemble,
shit.
our right to
I know.
be
I know.
innocent
We're on
until
the same
proven guilty.
boat. We're on
And
the
doing
same
so makes
boat.
our community less safe. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, for coming down this evening.
I have the same problem. I have no poker face at all. What is this dipshit gonna say now?
Yeah, I don't have any faith in the deputy chief's assurances that this won't be misused, and neither should anybody else. If it's considered illegal street activity, we wouldn't need a new law to criminalize it. It's the racist killer IMPD who are the ones who are dangerously driving around our city. They killed Ashlyn Lisby, Joseph Flyguy Steiger, and Rodney Huffman, just to name three. Literal killer cops writing laws to criminalize ordinary and legal behavior so that they can create revenue streams from
Point of
fines
order.
and illegal property seizure
Point of order.
is so outrageous.
Wow, that's more scary too. Who's saying that?
Just from that I'm stunned that you're moving forward with this poorly written mess, despite Carlino's efforts to put lipstick on a pig. No pun intended. Let me explain.
Oh,
what
I
mean by
know.
this.
What a
As
dick.
Cecilia mentioned, right? This could describe protesters gathering for a rally. This could describe
It doesn't,
a
though.
funeral procession going
It doesn't,
down
though.
38th Street towards Crown Hill. This could describe a block party or just existing in public. If you take a look at section 441-391, subsection F, that considers, quote, causing one or more persons to gather in or on or adjacent to a public street or highway to be preparations for an illegal street race. And
This is how much of a fucking dope these people are. They have probably never raced a car. They've never been to a race. They don't know that you have to prep an area if you're going to do drag racing. I mean, this fucking ass clown is the Jesse Brown group right here. This is how low IQ, how out of touch these smelly pieces of shit are.
last I checked, most sidewalks are adjacent to a public street or highway. Section 441-391, subsection I, considers anyone who is simply knowingly now a bystander or observer of this vague and expansive definition of an illegal street race to be a spectator who can be fined $100 and potentially have their car seized.
Womp
Even
womp.
reporters and people calling 911 would be considered spectators under the way this is, and again, this is poorly written because it's coming from IMPD, under this text. The proposal makes over a dozen references to, quote, reckless driving exhibitions, which are never defined in the text of the ordinance. I don't trust that IMPD or the courts would apply this poorly written law fairly. I think it's ripe for abuse. And if we really cared about public safety or criminal justice, if we wanted to do something, you would defund IMPD and charge killer cops. You would charge killer cops.
Anyone else in the audience?
Okay, first off, Does anybody remember this whole thing? Come on. Does anybody remember that? Do you know what happened with that? Nothing. Brian Muir said he didn't want to do any prosecution on this situation. So before that clown Noah wants to open up his mouth, he needs to start paying attention of what has happened in the last 4 years. And if he's really thinking, he's like, oh, they're going to be going after people. And this guy lives like on the border of Greenwood, where there's really no crime over there. Why doesn't he move more to where Jesse lives over on the east side? He'll change his tune real quick.
Mr.
Maybe.
Showers, ma'am, you want to come forward, please?
I'm not sure my blood pressure is going to allow me to cover everything. I extremely support this. I don't think it's strong.
You notice the camera panned away from this loser?
I don't think the people doing this are going to care if they get a $250 fine.
It's true.
It's happening right beside my house, and if you were at my house last weekend, you would have thought it was in my backyard. We can't leave our house. We can't go down the streets because we're afraid of being hit. We're afraid there's guns involved, which it's been proven that there has been. One girl's already been hurt. I see girls hanging out of cars screaming. Do you know it would take one fall and that girl would be dead, and her mom would be on the news asking why the police didn't do anything. The people that are attacking the police need to go through the public safety class that allows you to go and experience what a police officer does. I went through it. You get to use a pretend gun. You get to say whether or not you would pull that gun. You get to say what you would do in certain situations. And they're opening to listening to you. Go to the class before you decide to defund them. Who are you going to call when something goes wrong at your house?
I mean, he'll pull a Jesse Brown 100%, and he doesn't live in a house. He lives in an apartment. All right, he has no skin in the game at all.
Bet it's not you.
This lady is okay so far.
I'm sorry, but it just is so infuriating. I support it. I don't think it's strong enough. I think you guys need to look at Louisville's law. Indiana is constantly accused of following behind instead of leading. Why can't we lead this once?
Lady, have you paid attention? Indianapolis is not Indiana, okay, and vice versa. Look of who runs Indianapolis. The only thing they want to lead on is crime and ignorance and wasteful spending. Okay, they do not care about taking care of the people unless those people are Democrat voters. Then they're willing to throw all your taxpayer money at it just so they can get their vote.
Louisville has proven it works. Impound those cars. And as far as getting them released to people, our prosecutor needs to stand behind our police force.
Well, good luck on that. Remember that he got a vote of no confidence from the FOP?
If they say they've got to get to work, or they've got to take their child somewhere, or whatever excuse they need to get their car back, if they can afford to go out there and blow gas, which I can't afford, they can use an Uber. They don't need their car. I hope I get the understanding that you guys are supportive of this law. I just want you to know I don't think it's strong enough. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am. Anyone else, Mr. Stowers? Ms. Clerk? Final comments, councilors. On 314 as amended. Leader Mowry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think after hearing some of that testimony, the big thing to remember here is this proposal is simply don't break the law and you're not subject to these repercussions.
It's literally that simple.
Within the city bounds, and don't set out to break laws, and we won't have any reason to interfere with you. I am in full support of this proposal, and I agree with the lady that just spoke, and that this could be much more harsh, and I would be supportive of it still. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader.
Hell yeah.
Councilman Scary.
I'd like to be added as co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
They're just going to gaslight you. I mean, this is what they're going to do. Hey, we're actually a pro this after years of never supporting never supporting IMPD, and all they're going to say is, what do you mean we don't support them? We give them more money. That's not support. That's just a small fraction of the support.
Councilor Perkins.
Can you also add me as a co-sponsor as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. The chair will entertain a motion on proposal 314 as amended. Motion properly moved and seconded. Do a roll call vote, Mr. Clerk, please.
Councilor Renee?
Aye.
Councilor Bain?
Aye.
Councilor Boots?
Boots, aye.
Councilor Carlino?
Carlino, aye.
Councilor Delaney?
Delaney, aye.
Councilor Hart?
Councilor Hart, aye.
Councilor Muscari?
Mascari, aye.
Councilor McCormick?
McCormick, aye.
Councilor Mowry?
Aye.
Councilor Perkins?
Perkins, aye.
Chairman Robinson?
Robinson, aye. Motion carries. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, staff, for Mr. Stan this evening. Go Fever. We are adjourned.
Go Fever. That's funny. Well, there we go, huh? Got a few things going on. That went so much longer than it had to, I think. That thing could have been like half the time. But then you had the people who didn't understand that the city budget has nothing to do with ARPA dollars. The smart people in the room, right? The professor, the doctor, the college educated, like doesn't understand what ARPA dollars and budget funding is. Whatever, though. It's late. It's like 11:30 right now. So there was a meeting yesterday that was only like 10 minutes to do whatever. I know I'm giving you the heads up right now. There's a good chance I won't be going to the full council meeting because there's a neighborhood meeting that I have to go to. So, until next time.